Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong.
Break me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
Who the hell are you?
Maverick.
I think this guy's a couple cans short of a six-pack.
Good evening, London.
Enough! Maverick! Bullshit!
I'm your huckleberry.
Why, Johnny Ringo. You look like somebody just walked over your grave.
We have guns.
No, what you have are bullets, and the hope that when your guns are empty, I'm no longer standing, because if I am, you'll all be dead before you've reloaded.
Just stay out of it, pal. It's not your business, okay?
I ain't your pal, dickface.
Why don't you show your face, you fucking coward?
Ugly mother.
Welcome to my nightmare.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Stab-A-Thon Part 6. Initially, this was not on the agenda, but I got a wild hair up my you-know-where after... or right around the time we were starting to do Scream 5 and figured, let's just do a live stream review as opposed to making a video, which I contemplated, but I'm glad that we're doing this, and I'm glad that I'm here with two friends, one of which is the newly coined Bobby Voorhees. Bob, thank you for being here. I love the new name. Who gave that to you, or where did that come from?
You know, it came from a little question from one of my good friends that, you could say I'm kind of the hurricane to his cane, making it the hurricane. Asking, like, pretty much where, if these were real, what would your horror thing be? And because I'm New Jersey, instantly land on Friday the 13th. And, well, my good buddy here, who looks like Jason, from what I've seen anyway. Sorry to let you know that now, Brett, but
I know
he coined it, so it's kind of sticking now.
Yep. Bobby Voorhees. I love it. I freaking love it. You always have a new nickname, it seems like, every time you come on with me. So it's fun. And Sarah, thank you for coming and being here. I'm so glad that you were able to make it. Jen will be joining us late. I know she was on there, and Carey unfortunately had to work. I contemplated rescheduling the stream because I am sick as a dog. I feel awful, but you know what?
No.
I know the show must go on. So I was like, you know what? I don't know if this may be the beginning stages where it's somewhat tolerable and it may be worse tomorrow or Sunday. So let's just, we'll power through it. We'll power through it together. So just bear with me, everybody in the chat. I'm going to be a little bit sluggish and probably not as energetic, but we will make this happen. So yeah, and Kyle was also going to join us from he's changed his channel name, but Kyle from Return of the Living Flett was going to join us, but he had to cancel on us as well. So it's going to be the three of us for a while. So I hope you guys are ready to talk Scream 6. And to everybody in the chat, we will be, if you guys got questions, comments, whatever, we're going to be getting to it. I don't know how long the stream is going to go, but we will not forget there is a steel book to give away. And I already saw, let me go find it. I already saw our very own Jason Dyer saying, let's spin, get that wheel going. So if you guys saw last week's stream, it was the funniest stream I've ever been a part of. Jason was just nothing short of brilliant and incredibly entertaining. So we will definitely, Jason, we will be getting that wheel spinning. So before we get into talking Scream 6 spoilers, which obviously there's going to be spoilers if you haven't seen it, and our review, let's say hi to everybody in the chat. Let's see.
Yeah.
Lisa's Complete Randomness is here. Lisa, let me know if you got the steel book that I sent off last week. Mayanne had messaged me on Instagram. She got hers. And someone else messaged me also that they got theirs. But we have Mason Takes Manhattan telling Lisa happy St. Patrick's Day. I love that name, by the way. Mason Takes Manhattan. That's funny. It makes me think of Mason Gooding and the fact that they were just in Scream, in New York for Scream 6. So we got Mr. Bones in the chat saying Waka Waka Boom Shaka. All right, cool. Speaking of Mayanne, there she is.
Hey,
Happy St.
man.
Patty's Day. Yes, I don't know if you guys have any green on you, but I have my little shamrock lapel pins for the special occasion. So
no green. I am in my pajamas. It was an extra long work day, so that's why I am not on camera, but I am fully here.
Awesome. Hey, fair enough. Believe me, I contemplated just doing that as well, but I figured this vest makes me sweat, and maybe I'll sweat some of the toxins out, whatever got me. Yeah, exactly. We have James Tottenham Hotspurs fan for life, Jamie Hater fan forever. Damn, that's a long name, but welcome.
To make it easier, just remember his name's technically Jim Bob.
Oh, Jim Bob works. Blucka says, can't start the spinning till Coop shows up. Well, speaking of Coop, we'll get into that when we get to the wheel spinning things, but nothing bad. Just it's Coop. Coop is funny. Philip's here in the chat. Sarah's saying hello to everybody. We have Sharon saying happy St. Patty's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day, Sharon. Thank you for being here. Blucka's saying, damn, couldn't tell you were sick judging by your face. I know, I have a good poker face. Absolutely. I seem to win a lot when I play. They all tell me to feel better. Thank you guys. Yeah. Memo Boy stopping by saying, hey Mav, how's it going? Nice to be here with you. Sorry to hear you're sick. Yeah. You can't hear it. Well, good. That's good. I feel I feel very lethargic right now. So it's all right. We'll power through. We will get through this. I promise. Our very own General Val is here saying happy Friday, y'all. Thanks for stopping by, Val. Thank you. And our very own Care Bear. She's
hey, Carey.
Hey, Carey.
Popping in from work. We'll be here from time to time saying hi to all of you guys, and sorry that you're feeling like poop. Hope that you I don't think it was your fault. My daughter's been very sick, and I've been home with her, and that's pretty much where it came from. So let's see what else do we got. We got Extron stopping by. What's up, Extron? Thanks for coming in, man. Always good to see you. If I go off camera for a second, it's probably because I'm either coughing or puking. So just bear with me.
No.
I just hope it's not both, because I started coughing once and came up while still coughing. It is not a fun experience.
Yeah, no,
both.
I mean,
the logistics of puking in a mask can't be great.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. If I go off camera, it's gonna fly off like a catcher's helmet, like, and there's a trash can right here, so I'm on it.
This is dedication.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be better tomorrow or Sunday. So this felt like this is going to be the best day to try to get this done. Okay, so cool. Jason said he received his steel book and has it placed on his shelf as a major award. You know what, Jason? You earned that award. You earned it, my friend. That was the best. I seriously can't thank you enough for how funny you were that day. Was he not hilarious, Bob?
Yeah, it was.
It was so funny.
That real hated him until the end.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Well, just wait until we get to the wheel. Once we get done with this, wait, and I hope Jason is still here because it's gonna be hilarious. So everyone else is kind of catching up, just trying to see if there's anybody else here. Oh, Lainey's here. Lainey is a past winner. She let me know today that she had gotten her Total Recall Steelbook. So I'm glad that it came in one piece. Everybody's chit-chatting. Okay, cool. All right. So let's get into our review of Scream 6. I'll ask the question and then I'll kind of go around the horn. So what format did you guys see this movie in? Bob? What format?
First I saw it in the theater, and then I saw it in some questionable ways that I'm not going to get into.
Fair enough. So, but you saw it in 2D. It wasn't in the 3D or the 4D.
No, it was just your basic 2D.
Okay. And Sarah, how about you?
So I've seen it twice. My first viewing was 3D because for some reason the day it came out, everything was 3D. And then I saw it again in normal 2D.
Did you prefer it in 3D or 2D after you saw it?
I mean, honestly, the 3D, I kind of forgot it was 3D after a while of watching it because it wasn't like, the crazy 3Ds where things are constantly like flying at. It was like
they didn't have the
really
gimmicks.
Subtle. Yeah, there wasn't really like a gimmick. It was more of like you kind of when, for example, the restaurant scene at the beginning, it's like you had like extra people passing in front of you. You felt kind of just like more immersed. It wasn't like super gimmicky. So I didn't mind it in 3D, but just because the glasses are tinted, everything was a lot darker. So it was just kind of more vibrant and nicer in normal 2D. But yeah, 3D wasn't bad.
Right. So, and that, I always think of like Friday the 13th part 3, where like there was clearly shots that were specifically just for the 3D, like this movie didn't have that. I didn't see it in 3D. I saw it in 4DX, which, if anybody has that option available, I highly recommend it because I've seen it twice. And once it was in 4DX. The first time was in 4DX. And as far as the I don't know if 4DX encompasses the 3D technology. I know you do wear the glasses, but for the simple fact of the chairs moving, right? And they kind of, as the camera will tilt, they'll tilt. That if someone's getting stabbed, you feel like the punches, kind of small punches in the back. There's misters and air that they shoot out at you that just kind of make it amplifies the tension and the jump scares. So if you have that and you plan on seeing it again, if anybody in the chat does, I seriously recommend seeing it in 4DX. Like it was a great experience. It was honestly, I've never been to New York, but it was such a real experience. And I don't know how long my theaters had 4DX, but the lines are a little musty, like they haven't been flushed out in a while. So like when they were on the subway and like in some of those alleyways and it was shooting out air at us, like it kind of had that feel that Bob and Jen and Carey had described New York smell, that unique smell New York has. Like that was the smell. And I know that wasn't intentional on my theater's part. I think that was just a matter of that it was a dirty line or they were kind of like moldy and musty, but it made it feel more like we were on the set. So if you have that option, I suggest checking out 4DX. Let's
That's
see what.
cool. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't have 4DX where I am. We have something called D-Box, which is essentially just your 2D movies, but we have the moving seats, just none of the extra fancy stuff. So if it's available in D-Box, I would definitely see it.
Okay, so the seats move, but they don't like it doesn't have the misters and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
Hey,
cool.
at least you have that. All we have is your basic theater. You go in, watch a movie.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of everybody that has even fancy seats.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember it was like a revelation when we had a theater. I was younger that reclined, and it was just like, oh my God, like this, you can, sit back and relax and watch the movie. You're not in these hard, like old, chairs. So, yeah, but Mayanne said that she saw it on 4DX, 3D, and oh man, it was a real roller coaster. It really is kind of like a roller coaster ride. Like it was really fun. So I definitely recommend, if you can do it, to check it out that way. Let's see. My buddy at Nat Podcast is here. He said, "Great job with these streams, Mav. You and your guests have made them very fun to watch." Well, thank you. I'm assuming it's Ronnie that's here because Ronnie and Blake are some good buddies that I've recently made here on YouTube. But thank you so much, Ronnie, for being here, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it much. Let's see. Has anybody else said if they've seen it and if they saw it 3D, 4D? I'm not seeing it. So we're gonna start. Yeah, I see. Someone's talking about the ladder scene. So we'll get to all that in a second. So my mouse is crapping out on me. Give me a sec. Where are we? There we are. Okay. Sarah, I know that you were in Bearded's stream and you said that someone had dropped some spoilers.
Yes.
Were the spoilers that they said accurate to what the movie gave us?
Yes. And it wasn't like a full spoiler. Like, I don't know. Are we doing full spoilers? Are we going to get into this?
So
yes,
we're going to do full spoilers. If you want to save it for later, because we're going to get into all of that. I'm just curious to know before, like, I had a million thoughts come into my head and how I wanted to, like, what I wanted to ask. So I know that was one of the things that we talked about during Stab-A-Thon. So were those theories accurate, or those comments accurate completely, or were they kind of misleading? Because I have a different story for what happened with me.
So they were accurate, but it wasn't all of the spoilers. Like it was some of the killers.
Okay, fair enough. Bob, what about you?
Me, I actually avoided them all. Unfortunately, I saw one thing that ruined it leading up to it on opening day before I got in the theater. I did see pictures of Skeet Ulrich at the premiere, and it's like, yeah, he's kind of in it now.
Right. Okay. So I had one person in the latest, like 2 weeks ago, I did just a theory video, and I had one person that they left a spoiler, and it said that it was Danny was the killer, and that Gail's boyfriend was the killer. So yeah, so I was lucky in the sense, because I was like, man, dude, that sucks. That's in the back of my head while I'm watching it. But I was fortunate enough to, once I started watching the movie, I kind of had an idea of who the killers were going to be, or some of them. But I was like, in the back of my head, it kept throwing me off, because I'm like, if that person was right, I don't know why my spider sense is tingling on this person. But so I did a poll after I saw the movie, and I'm curious to know, what did you guys think? Like, what? So let me pull this up, because I think like I almost had like 60 people vote on this. So I did a poll. I don't know if you guys can see it. It was just like, using the ghosts of faces past, blah, blah, blah. Where do you rate this movie? So legendary being, I just used Stu Mocker. For a solid entry, I used Mickey, and they kind of reflect how I feel about the movies in general. Roman Bridger, flawed but fun, and hot garbage for Amber. So Bob, where do you rank this movie? Where does this movie rank for you?
I know this is due to biasism in having a connection to a character, but I have it under legendary for me.
Okay.
I mean, personally, I thought everything with it was good, and I'll get more into it as we go along as to why I think it was legendary.
Right. Okay. Sarah, how about you?
I voted for solid entry.
Solid entry. Okay. So, well, I'll pull it right back up. I'm in the camp of, I'm somewhere in between flawed but fun and hot garbage. And Bob, this is what I was talking about when I said that usually you're the heel on this, on our streams. I think I'm going to be, I mean, obviously, if you look at the poll, I'm going to be somewhere in the minority. This movie, like I said, flawed but fun, but it was riddled with things that especially on first watch, walking out of the theater, I was like, a lot of that stuff did not make sense. And Scream does a pretty good job, especially for the horror genre, of being relatively airtight with their scripts and how things kind of play out from A to Z. And this one, I just couldn't get. On second viewing, it was, especially once you know who Ghostface is, it was rough. It was really rough for me. So like I said, I know I'm going to be in the minority, and I'm fully embracing my heel role today, Bob. I'm fully embracing it. Okay. So it's okay. And we can disagree. It's like, don't feel like you have to, go, oh yeah, you agree with me at all. Feel free to completely tell me I was wrong, where I was wrong, why I was wrong. I got no issues with that.
Hey, I'm going to say this. I have never backed down. Everybody and their mother was coming after me for saying I support Sam over Jenna Ortega. I mean, I was getting slammed every stream for that. So, believe me, I'm not going to back down.
Right. No, I know you're not. I'm just saying, in general, I'm going to, there's things I'm going to talk about that I absolutely could not stand. And if you guys disagree, it's totally fine with me to disagree. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Let's see. Going through, I think I saw a few people saying, Extron said he got it spoiled for him too, unfortunately. Ronnie saying that he avoided all spoilers. Nice. I want to see what people, okay. So here we go. Extron said it was a solid entry for him. Dino is flawed but fun. Memo Boy says flawed but fun. Blucka says they needed someone to come off the top ropes wearing a Rey Mysterio mask to fight Ghostface. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, but that would have taken the element out, and that's it. It would be in hot garbage.
I got you.
That would just take everything out.
Yep. I hear you. Sorry for coughing in the mic, guys.
You're good.
Dino saying the cop as Ghostface was great. He was so good, but the kids drag it down. Okay. Yeah. Memo Boy says Act 3. Yep, I agree. I'll get into that with you guys here. Blecka says I saw the trailer, so I was pretty. You know what? The trailers were nothing nearly as bad as Scream 5. I don't know. Did you guys think?
No, they were not even close.
Right.
To 5 level.
Right. Yeah, 5 was different. And if you just look at like with what happened with Halloween, I think that this was pretty close to not giving. They gave away some of the best scenes. They gave us a lot of it, but some of them still had some payoff. So, but we'll get into that. So like I said, like for me, this movie was a miss, and I'm really nervous for Scream 7. I 5 didn't age well for me. It was very close to home. It was like a retread of Scream 1. In a sense, this felt kind of like a bit of a retread of Scream 2. But I'm really, really nervous for what we're going to get with Scream 7, because my confidence level is kind of dwindling with Radio Silence just based off of this last one. So I, like I said, I'm fully anticipating. I'm looking for all the hate stuff right now. Like, you are an asshole or something. But Jamie says she was able to avoid all spoilers. Hi, by the way, Jamie. She enjoyed it until the third act. I wasn't a fan of the movie or the motive or the reveal. Okay, that's fair. Ryan says, I saw the movie Scream 6, Chad fight 2 Ghostface. We will definitely be talking about that scene. Let's see. Blucka said, well, if you think about the trailer, you already knew by minute 20 there was no one left but Quinn, Ethan, and Bailey.
Incorrect. There was still the possibility of Sam.
The only characters you didn't see die on the trailer were Samara, Annika, and the doctor. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And technically, we didn't see Jason. I mean, you can say that could have been a fake out scene because we did see it, but technically with the Quinn thing, we saw part of a fake out in the trailer. So, I mean, you can't really hold that on them.
Right.
Because we only saw the body. We didn't see him getting killed.
No, I hear you, man. But like, just because there were like logic and plot issues that I had, it didn't mean that I left. I wasn't bored. It was fun. My wife and I had date night, and we left going, that was entertaining. It wasn't until like once we got home where I started kind of thinking about like beat for beat what had happened that I started to run into my, okay, it's not working for me in my head. But what did you guys think of the opening scene? Sarah, how did you enjoy the opening scene?
Okay, I absolutely loved it, and here's the reason. So I had someone come into Eric's stream and say that the killers were Detective Bailey and Ethan. So immediately I was like, oh, well, there's the two of them. It's spoiled. So when Tony Revolori unmasks himself, I was like shocked because I was like, I'm sure everybody was surprised because they've never done that before. But I was like, oh my God, like maybe the spoilers were wrong. Like it just was like a new hope for me. So I was like super excited. And on top of that, I think it was just a good opening kill.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was, yeah, there was more to that too. And it was a double kill, but essentially a triple kill if you think about it. But Bob, what about you? Did you like the opening scene?
The only thing I didn't like about the opening scene was when Jason was first on the phone. You're going to start off like that and kind of instantly, because at that point, I recognize the voice. I'm like, they're going to go this route. It's going to be a fake out. Like, my mind was like, it's going to be, they're going to have somebody die, but then Ghostface is actually going to kill him. Like, and as soon as I saw the mask, I'm like, yeah, I don't see Ghostface doing this, unfortunately, in this series, trilogy-wise. If it was, say, Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven doing it, I could have seen them doing that and having a killer keep revealing themselves like that. But kind of too predictable he was going to die.
Are you talking about after he killed Samara?
Yeah, because once he got back, it was way too predictable. Once the phone rang, I'm like, yeah, he's going to die. So that goes to shock factor now.
Right. So for me, the opening scene, from just a longevity standpoint, I felt like was the strongest stretch of the movie that we got. I do agree with you, Bob, that you saw the writing on the wall with what was going to happen to Jason. I liked Samara Weaving. I was glad, I thought I didn't understand all the hype around them having her in there just because of her history with radio silence. But she did a good job, and I liked the kind of the fish out of water feel that they gave her, right? Obviously, she had her accent, her natural accent, and she didn't know where she was. Now that we know Ghostface Killer was pretending like they were lost as well. So I like the inexperience with going, I'm not sure where Hudson Street is, all that stuff. The most unbelievable part about this, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of serious, is that she would have to use a dating app. I feel like Samara would have no problem finding somebody to match with. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of the biggest stretch as far as believability. But I liked everything about her being a slasher movie professor and the little like you should know better than to come into a dark alley. I really enjoyed it. The only problem is there wasn't really a chase scene. That would be my biggest knock with the opening act was, she gets lured out into the alley. I would have liked to have seen maybe that first where she gets stabbed the first time, but maybe reacts enough to where she can be chased through the alleyway a little more. That would have been the only if perfect world what I would have preferred to see. Doesn't mean that it's right. Is I would have liked to have seen a chase scene through the alley. Remember in I Know What You Did Last Summer, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character going through the alleyway and where whatever his name is, like I'm drawing a blank right now, pops up behind the tires and gets her. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. But I did, yeah, I enjoyed the unmasking. I thought that was cool. I felt like we knew it was coming when it didn't immediately cut to a title card right after the who gives a was it no
The
not who gives a
slash,
fuck about
yeah.
me. Oh yeah, where it's now I see something red and then you get the slash because the who gives a fuck about horror movies comes shortly after that. But I thought the opening scene was really good. I really liked it. I enjoyed Roger L. Jackson as always. I thought that I liked the hot and cold game that he played with
Yeah.
Jason because it's like that's a game that you would play as a kid, and so I haven't played that game. I don't know about you guys, but I haven't played that game since I was a kid, so it was kind of cool to be like thinking of a kid's game being incorporated into your life is on the line. It kind of gives you a little bit of uneasiness, when you think about it. So I really enjoyed that. And then seeing his roommate sliced up in the refrigerator that was a callback to Friday the 13th part 2 was fantastic. I'm a huge Jason Voorhees fan. So actually I'm a fan of both. So I really liked the opening scene. Like I said, for me, it was the strongest stretch of the movie. There were scenes that I thought were better in this film. But I really enjoyed that. So did you guys like all the kind of the stuff that we just talked? Did you guys like the roommate being hacked up in put in the fridge and the hot and cold stuff? Did that work for you, or was it kind of lame?
Okay, I got a funny story about the hot and cold going into
I'd love to
everybody
hear it.
having like a 4DX type experience. The theater I went to, when it got to that scene, they were having a problem, and the air conditioner kept going on and on. It's like every time Ghostface would go cold, it just would spray out cold air from the air conditioner, and it would heat up. And I'm sitting here like, huh. I know this isn't 4DX, but it's kind of making me feel like I'm in the scene here.
How meta of the theater to do that to you.
So actually that stuck out to me, and I actually felt tension in that because I'm getting cold hot.
That's cool.
I actually like that part. And also when you think about, like you'd said, it is a kid's game, so seeing somebody kind of incorporate that is even more intense. It's like, wow, I haven't seen that since like grade school. I forgot this game existed.
Exactly. I totally forgot about the game. And then to see it and going like, oh my God, like hot and cold. But I mean, he doesn't know if it's his roommate or if it's actually someone that's fucking with him, And
and I liked that too because it's like a twist on what we usually get. Normally the game is, horror movie trivia. Like there's always that game at the beginning. But this time it's still a game. It's just different.
Right.
It's naughty.
And going just to piggyback off that, we know that, like you said, it's the horror movie games and Jason brings up, but we got to finish Richie's movie. And you hear Ghostface say, who gives a fuck about the movies? That's another, callback as to, or another reason I should say, why we didn't get that traditional horror movie trivia is this ultimately isn't about the movies. This isn't about, I guess in a roundabout way, it's about the Stab sequels, but this set of killers, it's not about the movies. So yeah, I really liked it. I really, really liked it. Like I said, best stretch of the movie for me. And they had me in the palm of their hand at this point. After that opening, I was like, this might rival Scream 2. This might be beat Scream 2 for me. So I was on board. I was on board for at least, I would say, a good almost the first half of the movie. I was like, this can be my top 3, no question. And then things kind of started unwinding. Dino says, when Tony Revolori unmasks in the opening scene, my mouth hit the floor. I loved it. It was different. Absolutely. Samara, Milba Boy saying Samara killed it. Let's see. Them not showing the title card also let everyone know that more was coming. Yeah, that's like I said, right as soon as he said, now I see something red, and we didn't get the title card, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. But I was down for it. It didn't, just because I knew it was coming, I still didn't know what direction it would go after. I'm sure a lot of us speculated that Jason was going to bite the dust, but I mean, realistically, there was the plan of Jill going to college and being the killer, so there was other directions they could have gone. I think we assumed what it ended up being, but they could have fooled us even more for sure. Let's see. Extron says, if it wasn't predictable until he got the phone call, in my opinion, it's still a shock and a good opening. I agree, man. I agree.
Oh, I'm not denying it wasn't shocking or a good opener, but it kind of took me out because at that point I knew what to expect, and I just don't like when I'm expecting something. Like, if you have my mind going like that, and I just get that one track mind, like, it's just it takes me out of it. That the opening to me is still solid. I think it's one of the better ones. Quite frankly, I think it even beats the original to me for that shock value. Because I had the original opening spoiled well before I even saw it, because some idiot thought it would be funny when I was renting it to be like, oh, this happens in the opening, and just went scene by scene. So at least this one wasn't fully spoiled. Right. Yeah, Dino says, one thing this movie did miss was an emotional kill, one that hurt us. Like in the last one, we had Dewey. 7, we will definitely lose one of the core 4, Kirby or Gail. We're gonna get into all of that, Dino. So don't you worry, my friend. Don't you worry. Let's see. Jamie says, am I the only person who is super proud of Sam? Billy told her to kill everyone and she ignored it. Then she dropped the mask in the end, clearly sending the message that she's not a killer like her dad. Yeah, I was proud of Sam for several different reasons, and I was somebody who was really hard on her after Scream 5. I know, Bob, you and I have talked about it. And we have different. Talked to me about it.
We've had different opinions, but I thought she was really good in this movie. I don't know. I'm kind of jumping ahead of where I want to go with it, but that's okay. Bob, what did you think about Sam in this film?
All I'm gonna say, because I want to get into it scene by scene when we get there.
Okay.
Star of the show, outshone everybody. I'm sorry to everybody that likes Jenna Ortega, Samara Weaving, Hayden Panettiere, Courtney Cox. None of them had anything like her. That's what someone like Trauma will go through. And when you look at 5, we see Billy is literally non-transparent. Like, you can see him. You can't see through him. 6 comes around. And this is why I say I'm not so much proud of Sam per se, but this was Sam's story arc of overcoming everything. They gave everybody subtle hints through the whole thing that she's not going to be a killer.
Sarah, were you satisfied with Sam? I don't know how you felt about her in the first in Scream 5, but did you feel like
Yeah. I feel like you and I were kind of on the same page. Like, I really disliked her in 5. And I can't put my finger on why. I don't know if it was partially the character, partially the writing, partially just like her style of acting. But I didn't like listening to her. I didn't like her at all. And I just can't give you a good reason why.
Right.
But like 6 totally turned it around. Like, she's like grown on me now. I was like rooting for her.
Right.
There's just something that's like a little bit different. There's still something that like kind of bothers me about her, and maybe it's just like the choices she makes acting, but like the character has like definitely grown on me.
Yeah, I was a big fan of hers and what she gave us in this movie. But speaking of liking, I know that everybody, well, I don't know, I don't want to assume for you guys, but everybody for the most part thought Scream 5 Roger L. Jackson was the best that we got. Did you like him better in the opening of this movie or Scream 5? Which performance do you think was better? Bob, I'll let you go first.
Scream 5 by far. I mean, he starts off with his own voice so subtle, calming, and like then that tension picks up, and then you hear him with that motive. It's just perfect. Here we kind of instantly get more of that aggressiveness in that whole opening because it starts off with Jason talking, and then he puts on the voice changer. So, to me, I'd rather hear it all the way through on the kill if you're going to do it. So that's why I'm leaning with 5. But don't get me wrong, he was still solid in the opening of 6. So, I mean, to me, it'd be the third performance. That would rank number 3.
Okay.
It'd be 1, 5, 6.
Okay. Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, 6 was really good. He was definitely the more like aggressive Ghostface there. Like, I love that. Do you feel like an animal, Jason? Like, loved it. But 5, it was just like, yeah, he had more personality. There was something about 5 where, yeah, I'm not very good at articulating why, but I just liked him better in 5.
Right. So I think from just the opening and closing of the first either attack or kill, if you want to like go from there, I think I liked him better in 5 with what he did with Tara. But then when you get into the hotter, colder part and the kill of Jason, because the scene is extended quite a bit longer. I haven't timed it out specifically, but I think I liked him better in 6 than 5. To me, number 1 is always going to be my favorite. But I liked, like we were talking about, the hot and cold and his little quips, that we got in this one. I think overall, I think we just got more volume from Roger L. Jackson that equated to me appreciating his performance a lot more. But it was one of those interesting thoughts that I had when I was watching the movie. So I got another question, and everybody in the chat, I'm curious to know what you guys think as well. Actually, before we get into that, Ronnie asked or put a pretty cool comment out there. He goes, the posters and images put out early, it's like they wanted us to believe that the Stab movies were a major part of this movie, and they tricked us. I remember all the speculation, all the live streams, everything of everybody groaning, right, about like, oh, they're not letting go of Stab again, because we saw the images from inside the theater with all the Stab posters and everything, and people just going, they won't let it go. They won't let Stab go. I know Zach Cherry's one of the biggest proponents of like, get rid of Stab, like go away from it. And literally it was not, it was irrelevant in this movie. So I know that a lot of people speculated that, and we did not get that. So that was cool. Did you guys miss Stab? Any of you, or?
No, I think we kind of had a Stab overload in 5 that I was like fine to take a break for a movie or two, because I don't dislike the inclusion of it. Like, I kind of enjoy it, just like the little facts here and there about it. But yeah, it was such a focus in 5 that I was kind of glad we didn't see it in 6.
Right. Let's see.
To an extent, yes, I kind of missed it, but not in the way of how they would have portrayed it. I would have liked them to make a reference to them wanting to do their own like TV series. So why not have like a quick like commercial of like start filming soon, Stab the TV series, audition now, or something. I would have liked a small clip like that or something.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't miss it at all. I liked that it was just kind of on the periphery and it was, barely mentioned, if at all. I'm trying to think if it was in passing, like like about Richie's motive or something like that. But it was very, very quick.
Yeah, I think it was just Richie's motive and when they were talking about Roman Bridger. I think that's the only time we really had any reference to it.
Right.
Other than seeing like the posters and that, like with Jason and them at the shrine and that. So
So Lisa says that 5's opening was better for Roger. 6 was better for him throughout the rest of the movie. That's fair. I think I agree with that, actually. I think I do.
To an extent, I do. I still think even in 5, though, even in other parts, he just had a little bit more personality. But I think what stole the show for 6 was how he was talking to Gail. I think that's what pushes it for everybody.
Dina says Roger L. Jackson took an extra shot of espresso for this movie. He killed it in every scene he was used. Yeah, I've never left a Scream movie feeling disappointed with his performance.
Now, I was disappointed with 3 though for the lack of usage. Like it felt like they kind of more wanted that voice changer to emulate more voices, and it kind of seemed like he wasn't there. And that's the only time I really had a problem with it in that sense, because he really wasn't utilized like he should have been.
Right, but I'm saying his performance.
I know. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if somebody brings it up, I'll be like, that's the only one I could see people complaining about with him with the lack of usage.
Gotcha. So my next question is, do you think this movie embodied New York or Halloween, or was this just a marketing ploy to excite the fans? Bob, what do you think?
I think it was kind of both. I mean, I think they wanted to set it something new because now you have a reason for other people to be wearing the mask. I think in a way it was kind of their plot device to have these wannabes like on the news saying that they got their masks and that. And I think it just was perfect. And personally, I think it was time they set Scream around Halloween. I mean, you can easily have so many fake ghost faces walking around that it would terrify Sam, Tara, in the right circumstance, like we saw in the subway.
Yeah, so I think that they portrayed Halloween pretty well. Like, we're in a big city. We're not in, like, the subdivision with pumpkins and children and trick-or-treaters where, people work in real jobs and don't have time for Halloween or, like, going to frat parties in costumes and then you see them on the train. Like, I think the Halloween aspect was fine. I think New York was not as great. I was expecting some more like establishing shots, maybe seeing some landmarks, but we just spent a lot of time like in apartments, in stairwells, in alleys. Like it could have been any big city.
Well, yeah, but to be fair at the same time, I mean, they can't really use anything from New York when they're filming up in Montreal. I mean, it would be hard to do that. And I think that was why they wanted to avoid those like long shots in this one. And this is the only one I could defend avoiding the long shots. Because even in the subway, Montreal subways are far different than they are in New York. I mean, every station has different like artwork and that. Like I've been up to Montreal before and took in their like subway system.
Yeah, everything's French.
I gotta say, I think they actually captured New York better than even Jason Takes Manhattan. I mean, except for Times Square scene. I think that's the only like really big thing I could say they did right for New York in that film. I got more of the New York aesthetic from this than I did in Jason Takes Manhattan.
It's funny that you bring that up, because that was so. In regards to like Halloween it was a mediocre. I don't know what Halloween is like in New York City. I have no idea. I've never seen it. Don't know anything about it. I would assume that maybe there's some pumpkins out or some, decals on windows and stuff, which we didn't get any of that, but that's neither here nor there. Yes, we did have the fraternity party. We had the subway scene where you see all the people in costumes. I guess maybe it's not, I didn't frame my question properly, but I feel like there was so much hype behind Halloween that I feel like it didn't deliver on my expectations, right? And it could just be because I don't know what to expect of Halloween in New York City. But in regards to it embodying New York, I agree with you, Sarah, that it literally could have been, for me, it could have been any big city in the United States. Boston, Philly, New Jersey, Chicago, they all have subway systems. They all have big, huge buildings and apartment buildings stacked up on each other that are in close corridors with alleys. LA does too. I can speak for downtown LA. Because everything was shot so tight, it to me, it didn't feel like New York. And going to what you were saying, Bob, with like Jason, I'm no Jason Takes Manhattan defender, but that movie has been eviscerated. And granted, 90% of it is spent on a ship. At least we did get the Times Square shot, right? We did get to see the punks with the boombox and Jason.
Yeah, but remember, New York gave them the rights to go do that
for
a cheaper price.
I get it, but I feel I'm not even talking about landmarks, because I saw an interview where Radio Silence goes, well, we weren't trying to have a chase scene up the Statue of Liberty. New York is more than just the Statue of Liberty, right? That city has a personality that can be, if you put the heart into the project and you want to suck something out that embodies. I mean, it could be down to like taxis, right? A chase scene running across a busy ass street and even Ghostface getting taken out by a taxi, right? Like nothing. The streets were dead.
I was literally just about to say, I was like, did I even see a yellow taxi in the whole movie? I don't think so.
No, and that's what I'm talking about. Like there's characteristics of New York that are outside landmarks, specific landmarks. And I'm not saying they needed a Times Square. I would have loved to have seen that. Statue of Liberty, I'm neither here nor there, but there were things that they could have incorporated that we didn't get. And I feel like I don't think it was intentional. I just think there was oversight. I think that they got so caught up in some of the story that like they didn't have someone to go, hey, remember, we're in New York. Like, let's make this feel like New York. I mean, because there's subways everywhere.
You do have to remember one thing too. Every subdivision of New York is completely different to the next. I mean, one side's going to be all big cities like that, while the next can be more land. I mean, it all depends really where they want to set it. And also, I can speak on behalf of New Jersey. I mean, Northern Jersey is more trains really than subways. New York's more the subway one than here. I mean, we have more trains running than anything. So,
yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, downtown LA, there's places where I've been that look just like where kind of they were floating around, and nothing made it unique. I mean, yes, we had an NYPD cop car, I think, and we saw an ambulance with New York whatever on the side of it, but nothing made me feel like we were in New York, right? Knowing that it was shot in Toronto, knowing that it's all a set, that's not even what I'm talking about. It's just, I feel like there's a New York is a character. It's like how we've said with other movies, like the location is a character in itself, and I just feel like they didn't do anything about it. So I felt like it was just a miss for me. For me, that's how I feel. So let's see what the chat has to say. They said Dino says, I think they used New York, not as much as they could have, but an okay amount. Okay. Ronnie says they showed us it was Halloween and I liked it. Or I liked that with all the costumes, but I agree that other than the subway, I didn't feel New York. Memo Boy says they did not show a lot of New York. Okay with Halloween. Okay. So Dino, he says I kind of disagree with Sarah, which will probably be both of us because he probably wrote this after you gave your statement. In my opinion, they utilized New York better than the Halloween setting because the Halloween setting was not that much in the film. Okay.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, they centralized it more to where it wouldn't be used. I mean, a lot of adults in that don't have time for Halloween. They want to work their 9-to-5 jobs. Sam, Tara, they're not really going to go out dressed for Halloween having to deal with all of this. I mean, really, the frat party was the biggest thing.
Right.
And it made sense for it to fit there because you're going to have your idiot college students doing that while your average person really just wants to go to work, get done work, go home, and take it easy. And that's what the New York life really is.
They made such a big deal about it being in New York. Like all
New
of the
York,
marketing
new
is like New York
rules.
subways, Times Squares, Big Apples, like everything was New York. And then it was like, I just think because they had it so prominent in the marketing, it felt like they underutilized the city, but maybe if the marketing wasn't so New York forward, it would have felt more like New York. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I agree. It's almost like how I felt about Halloween Ends, how they marketed the final showdown between Laurie and Michael, and then when we get what we get, I was like, that was hardly a final showdown.
Yeah.
I feel like the marketing is what really built up this huge hype. I think in my review of Halloween Ends, I said it was, that movie was hyped to be the Thrilla in Manila, and we got Tyson versus Holyfield, where it got, disqualified for him biting his ear off. Like it was that anticlimactic, and that's kind of where I think I agree with you, Sarah, that it was super hyped, right? New York, new rules, all that stuff, and I just feel like they didn't capture that the way I would have liked for them to. Jamie says, I didn't think it was very New York at all. I didn't think they made a big deal in the promotion about it being New York. I also avoided most of the trade. Well, if you remember, there was like the Times Square stuff, right? There was the New York new rules. There was the subway cart with the New York stuff. So they were doing there's the Apple with the buck 120 through it, that says the same thing. So there was a lot of promotion for it being New York, but it was just a bit of I don't know. It didn't break the movie for me. It was just something that I wanted to know if anybody else saw it that way. Let's get to what everyone else said. Halloween was in Scream 6 maybe twice. This is from Coop. You would just think it takes place in the normal time through the West. I mean, I don't know if people dress in costumes.
Maybe for me, it's from biasism going up to New York around that time. Like to me, that was actually normal.
Yeah. So
but also to be fair, everybody would know Halloween from how movies portray these places of doing Halloween. I mean, everywhere is really different, and they would only know the movie way.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm blind to it because, to me, it was natural. It felt right.
Yeah. Dino says the most I felt like it was New York was in the bodega scene. That felt very New York. Blucka says, felt like it could have been mistaken for any major city. Also wish that there was more behind the Halloween theme. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would have loved in a perfect world to have a haunted house chase scene where someone's dressed up like Ghostface that's hunting them, and they can't make heads or tails if that's a real killer, if that's somebody in the haunted house. So I don't know. Jason, the nice one, is here. What's up, man? Thanks for stopping by, dude. I apologize. I'm really sick. So if you hear me coughing or wheezing, yeah, not drunk. I promise. Okay.
No, I'm the
so
one that's drunk.
Dino brings up a movie that makes you feel like you were in New York is the first Ninja Turtles movie. 100%. 100%. That movie, it does. And I don't know how much of that was actually shot in New York as opposed to a set. But yes, I agree. But I mean, they couldn't shoot in New York. We know that. They could, but it would be like taxed through the roof. So it's all good. Oh wait, hold on. I saw something. So Jason lives in New York for over 3 years. He said they did an okay job. The opening scene was awesome, but the alleyways in New York City are much thinner and filled with way more trash. Fair enough. Coming from someone who lives in New York, he felt like they did an okay job. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know a lot of people have, and I'm not saying like you guys, I'm sure you guys have been to New York before, but that's what I'm saying. Like, everybody knows New York from movies. Like, and to them, that's what New York is. Unlike people who've gone there. Like, to me, it felt all right, other than there should have been way more trash around in the streets, and we should have seen rats running here and there, but.
Well, Jason, he backs it up by saying a tighter alleyway would have been more menacing than it was. The opening was awesome and I loved it. I just feel like it could have been so much edgier. Yeah, I agree. And I know that was something that we talked about on one of the streams before, is like how claustrophobic New York can be with the tight alleyways and being stacked on top of each other. I don't really felt like we got that. But that's just my opinion. I've never been to New York, so I can't speak to it, but what I know of it could fit into a thimble, and just my expectations were different than what we ended up getting. But if it worked for people, that's cool. Like, I don't got a problem. It's not, I don't think that Bob is wrong because he liked what they did with New York. I respect it totally. It's just,
I mean, I think they did better than how they were trying to treat California in 5. I mean, that really felt like that could have been anywhere, really.
Yeah. I mean, it was just familiar because we had some landmarks that we remembered from the prior movies, particularly the Mocker House and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the rolling hills and stuff like that. There's plenty of places they could have. So, going back to the main cast, were you guys pleased with Tara's role, or do you feel like she didn't get enough screen time or story time? Sarah, I'll start with you. Were you happy with what they did with Tara, or would you have preferred something different?
I think what they did with her was realistic. Like, I thought she was kind of bratty and like annoying at the beginning, but really she's just like was not dealing with her situation and was over it. So then I kind of appreciated her character a little more. Screen time wise, like, I think it was a good amount. I think 5 we like really focused in on like her and Sam, and we didn't spend enough time on everybody else. So I think it was better in this one.
Bob, what about you?
I feel it was solid enough. I mean, I could have used a little less time on her and maybe focus a little more on Sam personally, who still has that internal struggle. I think it's really should have been more about her in this one. They were more taunting her in this. I mean, Tara really wasn't as much of a victim as she was in 5. So I kind of felt like they balanced it right, but part of me is like, I would have liked a little more with Sam than I would have Tara.
Yeah, I got you. And welcome to Jen. Oh, Jen, we got a little bit of feedback. Let me turn this down. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. I just got home.
Good.
Had St. Patrick's dinner with some friends.
Awesome. So Bob was just talking about how he liked Tara's role in the film. What did you think? I know we've kind of got a jump start on you, so we'll just continue on.
I liked pretty much everything about the film. Tara, I thought there was a lot more of her personality came out. she had a lot of different levels where she was pretty much at one level at during 5, because she was injured. But we saw a lot of emotional difference this time.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a lot of feedback. Let me try to turn my headphones down. So did you feel like you were happy with how much time you got with her?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. I really liked Tara's role in this, and I liked the underlying the conflict, the struggle that they wrote with Sam. I thought they did a good job of pairing that together. I felt like obviously Tara outshined Sam in Scream 5, but I liked the fact that now we had the helicopter parent aspect where, Sam was spending the majority of her therapy sessions talking about her sister not handling the trauma properly, rather than trying to focus on herself. And obviously towards the end, the big conflict was Sam won't let Tara go, like physically or emotionally, and we end up seeing kind of that come to a head at the end where she's able to do it. And I thought they wrote the two sisters incredibly well in this movie, so I was happy with what they did with Tara's story. Speaking of the psychologist, what did you guys think of Henry Czerny and how he was used? Bob?
I personally loved it. I mean, I remember going to therapy, and that's kind of like how my therapist was for a while. Because I was the same way. I would beat around the bush, not get to the beat of the problem. I'd talk about how others weren't doing, and it felt realistic. Like it felt like something that would happen. And really, when it comes to that, in order for you really to get the help, you have to kind of notice you need that first. I felt like that was done to perfection. Just experiencing it myself. So again, there is some biasism there. I know people are going to probably say it was bad, but
Is that common, like for a therapist to just go, I'm not equipped to help you, and just bail? Like if you want to share, I don't know.
A lot of therapists really aren't equipped for like when people go around and murder people. That really is true. I mean, because most of your basic therapists are there to realize you try to get you to open up, get help. And there are a lot of scumbag ones too that'll just use that as an excuse to get you locked up too.
Right.
Because they don't want to deal with you.
Sarah, what did you think of Henry Czerny's character? Were you expecting more?
Sorry, there's like a crazy echo, and I can barely hear you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I have nothing open except for StreamYard.
Okay. Maybe let me try this. Okay, is it echoing? Okay, so maybe what I'll do is when I come to you, Jen, I'll unmute it, if that's okay with you, just so Sarah can hear. So is that okay if I just mute it and then unmute it? Okay. So Sarah, were you expecting more from Henry Czerny's character?
Honestly, not really. They didn't have him in a lot of the marketing, so I didn't think he was going to play a major role. Like I know a lot of people were suspecting him as like maybe a killer or maybe even a mastermind, but I didn't think they were going to use him a lot. And yeah, I mean, I thought maybe another scene or two with him, like maybe a couple counseling sessions. I didn't expect him to, bail after finding out the truth. But yeah, I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of him.
Right. And Jen, what about you? How did you feel about Henry Czerny? Did you think he was going to be mastermind, or what?
No, I actually thought he'd be Vince Schneider. A throwaway character.
Gotcha. Yeah. I had an early itch that he was going to be possibly a mastermind long before I saw the movie. But I loved the hell out of his death scene. I don't know, Bob, did you like how they killed him off? Were you expecting that? Number one,
I wasn't expecting it as soon as we had gotten it, but I knew after they had brought up the alibi, I knew sooner or later he was going to die, because they got to try to make it look like Sam was killing her only alibi. I didn't know who it was at that point either, though. So,
right. Jen, did you enjoy how they killed off Henry Czerny?
It was interesting, yeah, definitely. I don't know who did it. Honestly, I having a little trouble with the idea that it was what's her name, the daughter, Quinn. Yeah. Just the hype again.
Right. Sarah, what about you? Oh, Sarah might have stepped away. I really liked the kills. You know, the one thing that they promised was something that was going to deliver more, and it wasn't even so much on the gore aspect, although there was that. It was the locations of where people were being stabbed. That was somewhat new. Like I remember in Scream 3 that Cotton, we assumed, got stabbed in the head. Well, actually, no, he did, but they cut away really quick. Like this movie did not cut away. And I loved the locations more than anything of where we were seeing people get stabbed. And we'll get towards the end where we get to see someone else get stabbed. But I really liked what they did with Henry Czerny. Let's see.
she'll be right back. StreamYard crashed for her.
Oh, did it? Yeah, Bob, your mic is kind of jacked up too. I don't know if you want to try to unplug it and plug it back in.
Yeah, hold on.
I think you sound good now. Say something.
Hello? Is that
yeah.
good?
Yeah, you sound good. So how about the bodega scene? Did you feel like we got too much in the teaser, or was it perfect for you? I enjoyed the bodega scene. I'm not going to say that I didn't, but were you happy with how it played out, Bob?
Oh, I was thrilled with it. I feel they didn't even give us too much in the trailer. I felt like the suspense we got afterward was just perfect. I think it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
Okay, yeah, you might want to back out, and then I'll let you back in because it's doing that again. We'll go with Jen. What did you think of the bodega scene?
Well, I was really impressed with the way they got out of there. But other than that, it was everything I expected. I mean, I really think the trailer showed most of the scene.
Right.
Except how they managed to get out of the bodega, which was great.
Yeah, Carey's saying it, that especially in regards to that scene, I'm assuming that's what she's talking about, is we pretty much saw the whole scene. We saw the first stab that he gives the guy that confronts him at the door. We see him execute the clerk, and then we see kind of everything up until the girls push the rack of chips over. Sarah, did you enjoy the are you working? Is your thing working?
Yeah, for whatever reason, StreamYard was just like, oops, something went wrong, try again. So
being silly. Yeah. Did you enjoy the bodega scene, or did you feel like we got too much of it in the trailer?
No, I actually really enjoyed it, and I was surprised how much longer it was than what we actually saw in the trailer. Like, obviously we knew that like they were going to survive it, so it wasn't like that tense because it was so early on in the movie, but I really liked it. It was a nice change of pace, actually.
Right. Well, and then you know, I guess on the way to the precinct, right? Because we get the opening scene kill. We have the frat party which I loved, by the way, where Sam tased that dude in the nuts. I thought that was hilarious. Let's see, Jen, is it still echoing?
I don't know. I don't know why it would.
I'm gonna unmute you. Oh yeah, it's still doing it. But so we get. Let me give me 1 sec. So we get the phone call, right? Dermot Mulroney's like, "Hey, we need you to come down to the precinct." And then that's where the chasing happens. But we see before that, we saw Richie Kirsch. We saw his face pop up on Sam's phone, and she's like, "Oh shit, I never deleted his contact." Oh, there we go. Sarah, what was going through your head when you saw that?
That Richie's name popped up on Sam's phone?
That Richie was calling Sam's phone.
I liked it a lot because immediately you were like, okay, this person at least has to be close with Richie. Like, immediately I was like, okay, well, somebody has Richie's phone. So my brain immediately didn't connect family, which it probably should have, seeing as it kind of mirrored too. But I was instantly interested. I was like, who is this person now?
Right. Jen, what about you? What did you think when you first saw Richie's face pop up?
Well, before I answer that, some people in the chat have asked, no, I did not have surgery. My surgery was canceled because of the snowstorm. So it's not going to be till June now. What I think when I figured somebody had his phone.
Mm-hmm.
I did not make the connection.
You didn't connect it?
No.
Okay. Bob, what about you?
I didn't connect it to family, but I figured somebody had paid off the cops or something to get a hold of that, because it's kind of like Gail said. I mean, evidence can go missing for the right price, and we saw that Jason and them were huge fans of everything and kind of would have made sense. So I thought somehow Kirby was involved personally.
So, you thought it was Kirby?
Yeah, FBI and all that. Connections to Woodsboro.
So I immediately, when Quinn brought up in the conversation with Tara, right? So when she brought up about, hey, my dad did the same thing after my brother died. He left and, started working as a cop here in New York. He left, but she didn't say where they came from. And then we saw Richie's, let me back that up. So we get Detective Bailey say, we need you to come down for questioning because Sam's ID was left at the scene. Then we get Quinn talking about the overprotective sister. And then we see Richie's phone face pop up on Sam's phone. That was all the red flags that I needed. I will be honest, I didn't see Quinn coming, but that Detective Bailey was involved. I was like, this is a family thing. And let's see, I think Jen's trying a headset. Once she gets it plugged in, we'll try it out. This is a family thing that's going on. We're following back in the same path as Scream 2. And my only reservation was that it felt so obvious to me that I was like, they could be getting ready to pull the rug out from under me right at the end. Jen, let me try your mic with your headset. How can you hear me?
I hear you.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. There's no
Is it
feedback
better?
whatsoever.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So when I saw Richie's face pop up and just those two sequence of events, I was like 97% sure that he was going to be involved. the 3% was sitting there going, it's like the Billy Loomis thing in the original. Like, it's so obvious that, are they gonna play me to where I'm sitting there, telling my wife like it's him. He's involved, and then I look like an idiot at the end. That was the only thing that was making me nervous. But that, and then the guys that that left the spoiler comments that were like Danny and Gail's boyfriend. Those kind of jacked me up too. But thankfully, those were just full. That guy was totally full of shit. So, but okay, so before we get into more of the plot stuff, how did you guys feel they did? Like they wrote Gale in this movie. Jen, were you happy with Gale's role in this film?
Yeah, I was. I kind of expected her to be kind of bitchy. And she was. She really was kind of bitchy in the beginning. Not all the way, but was very surprised actually that she accepted when Kirby told her no press. That I'm surprised she didn't fight that more.
Right. How about you, Bob?
Me, again, perfect. It makes sense for Gail's character. At the end of the day, all she's in it for is the money. So she's going to pretty much go against her own word. And the minute somebody calls her out, she's going to go, oh, that's a low blow. Yeah, because they're calling you out and you did wrong.
Right. What about you, Sarah? Were you happy with what they did with Gale in this movie?
Not really, but I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just hate that she said in 5 that she was like done writing these books and she was going to write about Dewey. But then of course, without Dewey to kind of keep her grounded, she goes back to old Gale, writes the book, and is just kind of like back to her old ways. I was hoping to see, I don't know, like a little more sensitive Gale, but realistically I understood what they did with her, and I'm hoping, she doesn't die at the beginning of 7.
Right. Did any of you guys notice the similarities between and not just the punching scene, because I saw Memo Boy mentioned so funny when Sam tried to hit her and then Tara eventually clocked her, which I did. I thought that was funny. But did you guys notice the similarities between her introduction in this movie and the original? Like, as far as her, aside from the fact that she promised that she wasn't going to write the story, and then she ended up writing the story, down to the I guess it's libel if it's in print, the libelous comments she made about Sam, much like how she made those about Sidney in her book, and how Sam was like, what was it that she said?
She was unstable.
Yeah, unstable and a boring killer. That was what Gail called her. And she's like, that was a figure of speech. And she goes, it's literally a quote from your book. Like Gail completely, she's had, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, she's had the best arc, I think, throughout these movies. The best character arc. But sometimes it feels like it's a damn roller coaster with her, because we left off on 5 going like that whole thing about, maybe I'll write a book about a brave man or whatever it was that she said, talking about Dewey, only to come around here and be like, damn it, she succumbed again to the greed, right, and the fame, the vain nature that she's always had within her. And she's had such a crazy arc. But I just thought that was interesting that, like, we basically went back to square one with Gale. Gale is back doing the same stuff Gale always does.
The funny thing about Tara hitting her, that was an improvisation. She did that.
Was it?
That was not scripted. She did it on her own.
No kidding.
I heard her say it in an interview.
That's crazy. That's funny. I loved that scene. I thought that was hilarious. Okay, so I have something else I want to get into with Gail, but it's it's a little bit later in the movie, so we'll move on to how do you think they handled Nev's absence? Because it's shortly after the girls leave the police scene that we even hear mention of Sidney. Were you guys happy with how they handled it given the circumstances? Obviously, I think in a perfect world we would want something different. Um, but were you guys happy with that? Jen, did you like that scene?
Absolutely. I felt no need for Sydney to be in this movie, so I think the way Gail explained it was that she took her husband and her kids and she's having her happy ending. That's exactly how it should have been.
Mm-hmm. Bob, what about you?
About time. It felt good that they finally didn't have Sidney in there, and I know the circumstances were bad, but this trilogy really didn't even need her in 5.
No.
So I actually was glad she was in it. I thought they handled it perfect.
Right. And Sarah, what about you?
I like what they did. I like how they mentioned her, having her happy ending. She was with Mark and the kids. They were somewhere safe. I think to not acknowledge her at all would have been like super disrespectful. So I like the way that they did that. And I mean, hopefully the doors are, open for her to come back.
Right. So do you now that we had this and we were all pretty satisfied with how that went, do you want to see her come back in Scream 7? Like, okay, 2 questions. Does she need to come back, and do you want her to come back? So a want and a need. Bob, I'll let you go first.
I don't want, and we definitely don't need her to come back. I think the franchise can carry on without her. I even said this with the TV series. It didn't need her, and they did great. I think it depends who can write it, though. If you have solid writing people, you don't need Sidney to come back. Let her have that happy ending that she should have had at the end of 3.
Okay. Jen, how about you?
I'm just really confused with the chat right now. Everything's in the wrong place. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
You're good. So there's a want and a need. Do you want Sidney to come back in Scream 7, and do we need Sidney to come back in Scream 7?
No to both.
No to both. Okay.
And the only way I could actually see her coming back, I mean, the only reason I could possibly think of for her to come back is the fact that when we left off at the end of 6, Gail was still in the hospital. If they start 7 right where 6 left off and Gail takes a turn for the worse, that would be a reason to bring her back. But otherwise, I see absolutely no need.
Gotcha. And Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I don't think she needs to return, but I would like her to return only because I wish that she was able to go out on her terms story-wise. Like, I hate that the reason she didn't, return to the franchise for 6 was because they weren't paying her. Like, I'm fine if, an actor doesn't want to be in a movie anymore and they write them out. Like, I'd be okay with them ending her story. I just don't like the way it went down. So I would like for her to be able to come back and kind of end her story, like, for her and for the fans.
Right. So we're kind of getting to the point where the girls have left the police headquarters, but right before they do it, we get introduced to Kirby. Did you guys enjoy what they did with Kirby in the film? 1, her introduction, and 2, kind of her story arc throughout this. Did you like it, Sarah?
I liked her introduction, and then my enjoyment with Kirby kind of declined as the movie progressed. Like, I think it kind of went to hell with her in the 3rd act. But like, I really liked the scenes with her, like in the beginning, in the precinct, doing like the police work, seeing Sam again, like all of that. But yeah, it kind of unravels for me in the 3rd act.
Right. Jen, were you happy to see Kirby back, and did you like what they did with her?
Well, first of all, I was never much of a Kirby fan. I mean, I didn't dislike her, but I wasn't excited that she was coming back to begin with. And honestly, I felt she was very suspect throughout the movie, and I'm still not so sure she's not behind this.
Oh, interesting. So you think she might have been the fourth killer as far as the third act killers, not
Right.
counting the guys in the beginning.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's new. Bob, what about you?
Personally, I loved every aspect of it. And this whole trilogy's motive so far has been everybody is a literal suspect, even its two final girls. So I think they're still capitalizing on that, doing what Randy's original motive was, which they never did with Sidney, which I felt was kind of a missed opportunity with that. Because if you're going to have Randy go, everybody's a suspect, even your final girl has to be a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're doing that justice in this trilogy. So
Right.
Kirby coming back and being sus worked so well for me because I thought she was sus in 4.
Right. So I did like Kirby. It was good to see her, right? It was good to see her back. I liked that the events of Scream 4 kind of made her a little bit more hardened. I would have loved to have seen the movie Geek, but I think realistically, her being both like how she was in 4 and having the balance being an FBI agent, I think that would have been just too much to ask for the audience to believe and for her to try to perform. But the one thing that was a big takeaway for me was like she didn't seem like a very bright FBI agent. And like one of the big negatives for me was the fact that Gail was the one that uncovered the shrine, right? Do you remember that where she's like, "Well, it's just called investigative journalism and you'll catch up, sweetheart," because it was under Jason and Greg's name. Go ahead, Bob. Excuse me.
Actually, that would make a lot more sense that Kirby wouldn't be able to find it because when we learn in that final act, it breaks down. The reason you're not going to find anything under their name is it wasn't under the payment of them. It like you would actually have to really deep dive, and at that point, you will see FBI kind of hire outside sources to deep dive like that. So
But
they kind of
wouldn't
were playing that mantra of that.
so wouldn't Gail have known like who was it under then? If Gail's able to trace it that it's not under their name, wouldn't she have been able to go, "Oh, it's under this person's name," and give that to Kirby to look into and go, "That's not a real person." I just felt like it was kind of she felt like
Yeah,
she
but they didn't
wasn't
say if she, yeah, but she never said she found the name of who owned it. She just knew it was them. She didn't find the payment stubs. She just knew about it.
right. But don't you think as an investigator that'd be a good follow-up question? Well, whose name is it under? How did you get to this point, right? So you can run with that lead because essentially that's what it is. It's a lead that we just like Kirby does no follow-up. She just accepts it and moves on and then we get into the shrine which it's fine, but I just felt like there was more they could have made her feel a little bit more put together. I don't know. Bob, I know you don't agree with that. Jen or
But
Sarah?
also, who's to say that Detective Bailey didn't make something fake up too and like kind of send it to her as like a fake person? Like I found this in X amount.
You're could be right. My whole thing is that we don't even get the bother of a follow-up from Kirby. She just your job as an investigator is to have start at one end and have that end wrapped up at the very the crescendo of it all. It should be wrapped up. There should be no loose ends. And she just accepts it from a reporter. And that was my problem was like, we just didn't get, I don't know. I didn't feel like she was a very polished FBI agent or believable for the most part, which could lead into Jen's theory where she's a fake, she's a fraud, and she's a killer.
Well, that's where I was also going to go. I mean,
she knew
just 'cause
about
she
it.
says that she could have easily known.
Who?
I mean, for all we know, everybody's involved. For all we know.
Yeah, there's always that possibility. Jen, did you think that they wrote her kind of a little dopey, or were you fine with it?
I think that she didn't ask any questions because she already knew the answers and
Gotcha.
she wasn't letting on.
Right. Okay, Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I didn't get like suspicious vibes from her. I honestly just chalked it up to they didn't write her as well as they could have, or they just didn't have the time to go as in depth as they should have with her.
Right. Well, I think I've had this stance for a long time. Hollywood does not write like law enforcement. They don't write that stuff very well. I don't think that either they don't outsource or they don't outsource consultants, or they just don't care, or they outsource people that don't give them, like, maybe it's too complicated and takes too much time for them to actually do things properly. I just have, and it's not this movie only, it's so many movies. I mean, the only movies that really do them justice are like End of Watch and stuff like that, where you're like, holy crap, like they actually cared about um making this stuff accurate. So let's see, I saw a comment that I wanted to get to really quick, and the freaking chat jumped on me, so now I can't find it. Oh well. Moving on. Okay, so we talked about Kirby's role. Let's get to the ladder scene. So everything leading up to it, do you feel like, going back to what we talked about with the bodega, Sarah, do you feel like we got too much of the ladder scene? I guess as a whole, maybe not, we didn't get it from start to finish, but do you feel like we saw too much in the ladder scene? Were you satisfied with how it all played out? Or was it kind of all like it played out as you expected based off of the trailer?
Yeah, it kind of played out as I expected based off the trailer. I think if they had just teased it in the trailer just a little bit, just him sliding the ladder over to them, maybe is all we would have needed. We could have kind of inferred the rest, but yeah, it just they used that ladder shot in like all of the TV spots, and I think they showed a lot of it.
Right. Bob, what about you?
Way too much in the trailer. It played out the same way. I mean, it was too predictable. But I will say this: that scene's where I hated Mindy in this film. That's where it started all, from that one entire scene.
Go ahead and explain. I'm interested.
Okay, first off, all she did was get slashed right here on the shoulder. Not that bad of a major wound. She's sitting there crying, oh, woe is me, woe is me. Meanwhile, we actually have Annika, who gets literally started to get gutted, so to speak.
Yeah, she got it bad for sure.
Who has reason to cry, and then Mindy's going to have her go across line. Are you kidding me? You want like Mindy and that to be likable, and that you want the core four to be in trouble. Why are you having her being so selfish and pretty much literally causing somebody to die in that? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, Mindy caused Annika's death. Sam was the smart one by saying, Annika, go first, then you, then me, because she had the strength to hold the door back.
Right. No, I agree. It should have, realistically, in hindsight, that's how it should have played out. But I get it. Real quick, Polar's in the chat. Everybody say hello to Polar.
Hey, Polar.
Thanks for stopping by, Polar.
Hey, Polar.
We're talking Scream 6 spoilers, so feel free to contribute, and any questions that you have, just go ahead and throw them in the chat. Okay, Jen, how did you feel about the ladder scene? Were you satisfied? Were you like, we got too much? What did you think?
I don't know. I wasn't really impressed with it. First of all, as far as Mindy's concerned, Mindy told Annika to go first.
Right.
And she wouldn't go. She was too afraid to go.
Well, that, and let's face it, she was going to die halfway across that ladder in reality. But
I thought they
it
were
was
going to
just
have
poorly
some of
written all
her
around.
intestines falling out. While she was
I mean, it was
crossing,
just poorly written. That whole debate about who should go for it was just poorly written all around.
I was also, after hearing Craven's video about how the directors wanted to top the two scenes in Scream 2, and one of them was the ladder scene compared to the police car. There was no comparison. I mean, the ladder scene was like nothing, it was fluff compared to the cop car. So I was just totally unimpressed with it.
Okay.
Actually, I will say this: I was more impressed with that than I would be with a cop car scene. But that probably comes from having a fear of heights. Like I'd actually be. Let's just say I wasn't in that state that Ack was in, where I could call a car. I'd actually have to stop halfway because I'd be paranoid. They'd be saying, "Don't look down," and that makes me look down, and I couldn't move after that. So I felt more tense in that than a car crash.
Right.
To me, anyway. But
Yeah.
I will say, shooting wise, because of the trailer, the cop car scene is 10 times better than what we got with the ladder scene. If we would have gotten none of it, it'd be a different story.
Yeah. Dino says the ladder scene was good, but we kind of know what was going to happen. Still very suspenseful. I agree it was suspenseful. Even before that, I liked there's a scene that I will get into at the very end, right before this happens. That is a huge issue for me. But the scene where the core four is kind of crowned and they're, Sam's like, yeah, I'm sleeping with cute boy across the way, all that stuff was fun. Right. And it was cool because it was like the calm before the storm. But yes, the trailers gave far too much of the suspense aspect of it away. Bob, I could totally understand if you have a fear of heights, how that would get you on the edge of your seat. The one thing I will say is, although we knew what was coming, and I agree with you, Jen, I've heard a lot of comparisons to Scream 2 and how this trumps Scream 2 as far as chase scenes and all that stuff. I completely disagree with the people that are saying that. I think it's just new. It's a new shiny toy, and that's why everybody's on this crazy train. But seeing what Annika's face looked like after it smacked into that garbage, the garbage can or the dumpster, I did like that. I was like, you know what? When I think about all the times we've seen people get tossed to their death, CC Cooper, like it was nice to see the aftermath of that fall. So
yeah, see, I was gonna say a better comparison would be to CC Cooper in that situation, not the police car chase scene. If you're logically thinking about, because metaphorically she's being thrown off something. Granted, not quite the same way as being picked up and literally thrown off.
Yeah, it's still a fall to her death. I mean, she probably wasn't. It would have been a rough one for her to make it through, even if she got across. But yeah, Polar says I was thinking the same thing. Mindy again is going down from her wound or overacting when Ghostface was pretty much gutted and being when her girlfriend. I'm sorry, I thought that was Ghostface.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, Ghostface was getting gutted. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
that was brutal though, and they did so many of those knife twisting scenes that I really enjoyed. The practical effects that they used in here, I'm a huge fan of those to begin with. Was freaking awesome.
Now, see, if we would have had that in Scream 4 when, like, one stab would kill someone, that would make more sense than just, like, one little stab. Like, if you start twisting it, that's doing more damage because you're messing the insides up.
Right. Heroic Waffles stopped by to say, I love that name, by the way. Hope everyone is having a great night. Scream 6 was good. Surprised me, to be honest. Cool, man. I'm glad that worked out for you. Blueberry says, great fall scene, best in the series. It was pretty good. I don't know if I liked it better than CC Cooper's. I think CC Cooper's is still, the fall obviously is better, right? The collision with the ground is better, but I think from beginning to end, I still think Scream 2 had way more suspense.
I think I like it better than Tyson's though.
than Tyson's. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up, Sarah. I totally forgot about Tyson in Scream 3.
Well, I
So
just
did
thought of
I.
it because you were talking about how Annika looked like on the ground after with like the face, whereas
Mhm.
like Tyson and Cece both look the same. It's like you see the above shot of them, their limbs are splayed, and then there's like blood by the head, but you never actually really get a close shot of them.
Right. Jason says, I agree about the latter scene. It's the only scene in the trailer I hated. For me, it was akin to the biggest jump scare. The sister at the car in Smile. Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was I couldn't believe they showed that in the trailer. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Okay. So we talked about how Gail found the shrine and everybody, and kind of one ups Kirby. It tells her, you'll get on my level one of these days. We finally get to the shrine, and I think it's fair to assume that we all thought visually it was amazing. But was there anything that you wish they did or didn't do with that setting? Bob, I'll start with you. Were you satisfied with everything that we got from the shrine, or do you wish that we got something different, or they took something out of the shrine that bothered you?
I was satisfied, and at the same time, I think there's a massive, massive stew hint in there.
Okay. Do you want to save that for later, or do you want to elaborate on it?
Well, it's up to you. Do you want me to elaborate now, or do you want me to
Sure.
wait till later?
No, let's hear it.
Now, you remember that drawing of Principal Hembry, right? When they were zooming in and that on all that.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay close attention, that bottom part shows exactly how he was stabbed and everything. They would have found him by the goalpost. They wouldn't have known how he was laying in his office. There's no logical way they could have depicted how he was laying. He could have been stabbed sitting up for all they know. Something just was off with that drawing.
That's fair. So you think that Stu drew it?
Yeah. And I think he
Okay.
was drawing some of the other stuff as well.
All right. All right. Jen, what was your conclusion with the shrine? Satisfied,
Very
unsatisfied?
satisfied. I was extremely satisfied. They had so much detail. I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was great. I loved all the drawings.
Right. And Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same as Jen. It was like a nice walk down memory lane. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you just got to see everything again. And because this like setting is like kind of so far removed from like Woodsboro and what we like remember even about the first like two movies, that it
Uh-huh.
was just nice to kind of like bring that familiarity back. So I loved it.
Okay. So when we get to the shrine, we get that cool overhead shot. We see that most of the main cast is there, at least that's who survived. Um, and we finally get Mindy and Kirby scene that so many of us had speculated before this movie came out what we would like to see, at least when they announced Kirby was going to live. Um, was that scene everything you could have hoped and dreamed for, or did it fall flat? Sarah, I'll start with you.
Honestly, I thought it was a little lackluster. Like they were just, basically just naming movies. Just I thought there was going to be like a little more conversation involved and not just to like what do you like better. So
Right.
yeah, it fell a little flat. Like I get that they can't devote a whole lot of time to it, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting.
Jen?
Well, I actually see Kirby and Mindy as such different characters. Mindy is more into the how about it, the rules and all that, not just knowledge of, listing off names of movies. Where
Right.
that's what I feel Kirby, I mean, yeah, she can list them all up, but they're so different to me that the scene just fell flat.
Right. Bob, how about you? Did you like that? Was it everything you could have hoped for, or was it just kind of a swing and a miss?
Oh, it was everything I could hope for. It's exactly how I predicted it. It would fall flat. It was one of the most boring things I ever saw. You would have been better off having Kirby calling her out on her BS about.
God damn it, Bob! You almost made me spit my water everywhere. I was not expecting that.
I mean, really, I gave you a perfect scenario. You kind of have each other calling each other out on the rules and everything, and oh, this is how I would. Why are they sitting there naming off movies?
Well, I mean, I think that they were listening to the fans. I'm not necessarily defending it because I'll give you my thoughts in a second. But I think they were listening. Somebody was listening to the fans, because how many of us in live streams or in chats of live streams are like, I would love to see a movie banter back and forth. Now, mostly it was going to be like a trivia, like having them quiz each other. That was kind of more or less the speculation, as opposed to, best Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But I agree with you, dude. I agree with all of you. That scene was so disappointing for me. What it reminded me of, and have all of you guys seen Step Brothers? I'm hoping everyone in the chat has seen Step Brothers. This will make a ton of sense. It literally reminded me of the scene in Step Brothers, but not funny, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah, favorite magazine, non-pornographic magazine to masturbate to. Good Housekeeping, favorite dinosaur, Velociraptor. Like, that is what that scene did in my head. That is immediately what I thought of, and I was like, boy, oh boy, this I felt like was a easy layup for them to get right, and it was not done. It was not what I wanted at all. Like, it didn't work. So I'm glad that we're all in agreement.
Let's just say they missed a free throw like LeBron James will do in the postseason.
Nice, Bob. Nice. So Nick Push, which, by the way, he's got an awesome horror channel. He brought up a question that I want to get back to in a second. I want to see what everybody's saying on how they felt about that scene, because it's going to lead me into my next question. So, Nick, I'm going to get back to that in 1 second. Real quick, Bearded stopping by saying, I'm literally walking out of the theater from scene 6 again. Bearded, how many times have you seen that movie, dude? I'm curious to know.
He said in the chat 7.
7 times.
I just saw it 7 times. Man, you got me beat. You definitely got me beat.
He's catching up.
Have all of you guys seen it once or twice or 3 times?
3 times.
Jen, 3. Sarah, how about you?
Twice.
Yeah. Bob, I know you said you've seen it twice, right?
10.
10?
Wow.
I told you I have that specific way. I'm not going to indulge myself in explaining.
Oh, shit. Okay, my bad. I thought you were joking. I knew you had the specific way, but I didn't think you watched it that many times.
I have a specific way, too.
Oh, nice.
I've only seen it in the theater once.
Fair enough.
Same.
Bearded said a few little nitpicks, but overall still good. Good, man. It makes me happy. Okay, let's see. Oh, look who stopped by. My buddy Blake. What's up, Blake? Thanks for stopping by, man. Yeah, I was curious to see what how people felt about that, but I think other people were talking about Bearded seeing 7 times in the theater more. Okay, so going back to Nick's question, he said the shrine was amazing. I wish we wouldn't have seen it in the trailer, though. Some of the theories were better than reality, but it was pretty awesome. So going back to, or based off of what he just said, did it bother you that there was the line that, I know, Bob, you kind of already said that it didn't, but I want to know, like, full-on thoughts, that the shrine was assembled because cops like money, that excuse. Were you fine with that? Did you think that was a little bit lazy or convenient? How did you feel, Bob? Like, I'll let you elaborate more since you kind of already said that, how you felt about it.
See, I don't now, knowing that one of the killers was a former detective. I mean, obviously we have that going, so he's going to have ways to get it, even if he's not wasting money. But it's not just that. There's one crucial thing that a lot of people aren't realizing. I think it was great they showed it in the trailer because it kind of rolls with my theory. All this was to torment and taunt Sam into getting to wear Billy's costume. And that's all it was. It wasn't about Stu really coming back. Stu's not coming back till at least 7. I think we were all in agreement in that before 6 came out. I think it's fair to say on that. So for me, I thought it was done perfectly because you're now taunting the one person you want to that's not all there yet. That still hasn't quite came to grips on not to be like her father. She's trying not to slip there, but she was treading that line through that whole film.
Okay. Fair enough. Jen, how about you?
I agree with Bob. Totally.
Okay. Anything else you want to elaborate on, or are you just good right there? Okay. Sarah, how about you?
I honestly didn't put a lot of stock into the reason behind why the shrine was created. Like, I knew they were going to have to come up with something to warrant having it. I feel like the shrine is mostly fan service. Like, yeah, it ties in a little bit to, Richie's backstory, which is good. But we knew they were going to have to make up a reason that it was going to be there. So the reason it was there doesn't really affect me too much.
Okay. I guess I'm the only one. Again, it always seems like these things, they're nitpicky, right? It's not a big deal. It's just like, for me I think it's kind of lazy, or you're asking too much of me to suspend disbelief. Like, just to assume that in Woodsboro, in LA, and in Windsor, that everybody that was in charge of where this property was booked was dirty, right? And that was just like, hey, okay, fair enough. Everybody's got a price. But Kirby, one of her first 2 lines is, I take a special interest in Ghostface attacks. Don't you think that it would have been on her radar that that evidence from all these murders are missing, even if it's after the fact, right? Where they're like, we found Jill's mask at a scene. Don't you think FBI would have a team so far up all those police departments' asses trying to figure out who sold the stuff and who bought the stuff? To me, look, it's not a huge end all be all, but it would be way more believable and presented, I think, less obstacles if they were movie props, if they were props from the Stab movies, or they were just like, Richie was such a fanboy. It would kind of paint his character retroactively as the ultimate fanboy because he was making props from the actual murder scenes, right? It's just one of those things where it's way less of a hurdle for us to, some of us, me, because I'm flawed as fuck when I watch these movies. I don't like when they do stuff like that. Like in Halloween 2018, my friend at the district's attorney's office let me borrow this. Like, things like that just bother the hell out of me because it's not, some of it's real, but all of it, like, for all that whole damn shrine to be from a dirty cop or 3 different departments to just give all that stuff away, I would have preferred it to be movie props. I don't know. That's just me. So let's see how much hate I got for that one, because I'm anticipating it. First of all, Blake says, make sure to hit the thumbs up button so Mav can get famous. Thank you, Blake. I don't think it's going to happen, but thank you anyways. Bearded said, there's so much I want to say, but can't text fast enough. I don't know if that's probably in regards to what I was saying, but fair enough. Mav, if you could pick one thing from the shrine. Okay, if you guys could take one thing home from the shrine, what would it be? Jen, let me start with you. What would it be?
Not sure.
Does someone else have one that want to let Jen think?
I got my answer ready to go. It was a no-brainer. It's Dewey's badge.
That's a great one.
Billy's
Bo-
knife.
Who?
Billy's knife. I would
Billy's
take that in a
knife.
heartbeat.
Yeah, that's solid. Memo Boy said he would take Jill's shirt. Puller says I would take Tatum's outfit. And Richie goes, maybe 10 items tops. That was excessive.
I think I want the garage door.
The whole door.
Oh, nice. Okay, so Jason agrees with me. Thank you, Mav. I agree with you 100%. I don't believe it's all true crime items. I think it would just be, it's easier to believe that they're props. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Bearded agrees with me as well. Okay, so go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, jokingly, I had said before the movie came out that the shrine belonged to I can't remember his name now. The guy who did supposedly
Ryan
Stab-A,
Johnson.
Ryan Johnson, yes.
I do remember you saying that. That would have been interesting had they gone that route, like brought him in. Like he's just so pissed from all the Star Wars hate that between Star Wars and Stab-A that he's like, I'm killing everybody involved with.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's funny. That's funny. Let's see if it was one item from there that I would want to take. Dewey's badge is a great one, Sarah. Gosh dang, maybe Stu's mask if it was there. Right? If it wasn't there, then his robe. That would probably be what I would want. Is either Stu's mask or Stu's robe, for sure. Oh yeah, look, Mayanne. Boom. She we're on the same page. Great minds think alike. Stu's robe. If the mask was there, I'd want the mask, but second would be his robe. Okay, so Blecka asks, are there any survivors you would have liked to have seen gone down en route of the killer instead of a survivor? Maybe I'm just delirious because it's hot under here and I'm running a fever. Are there any survivors you would have liked to have seen gone down the route of the killer instead of a survivor? Okay, now I'm picking it up. Is there anybody that survived? And I don't know if this is all time. Let's just say in regards to Scream 5 and Scream 6 with this new cast. Anybody, Bob, do you have anyone that you would have liked to have seen gone down the route as a killer instead of being a survivor?
No, I think what they've done so far has been perfect. I wouldn't change it.
Okay. Jen, how about you?
Well, this is going to get me booed off the internet. But honestly, I would love to see Sidney and Gail both say, enough of this. Let's just kill them all.
But there's one problem with that, though. The minute Sidney does do that, she's now going to cause more people to copycat now. Because they're going to look at that as, victim mentality. That plays into today's thing. Everybody will look like that. Oh, we could just play victim if something happens like this and get away with murder.
True.
Okay.
But I like your thought. But I do like your thought because I like what they did. I know she's technically hiding in the closet, so the back would just be showing black. But let's face it, I loved seeing Sidney come out of the closet in that costume.
Yeah, that was pretty badass.
I'm sorry to people that don't want Sidney to ever be a killer, but man, make it happen.
Well, I mean, in a way, she's a killer. She's just she's defending herself, but she can kill. She can kill.
Like Faith says, she's got more blood in her hands than most of the killers.
Yes, I agree. Sarah, how about you? Any survivors that you would have liked to see become a killer?
No, there's definitely survivors that should not be alive, but I don't think anybody currently alive.
We will definitely
really
be
a
getting
killer.
into that for sure. For sure. Let's say, Puller says they could say some were movie props and a few were authentic. That would have at least been a little bit more believable too, right? Nick says he would have taken Steve's Letterman jacket and wear it around all the time, bloodstains and all. That's funny. Oh, Bearded said some of them wouldn't even be evidence. The fax machine from Scream 3. I mean, if there was anything, I mean, it's tough to say, but that would kind of, I think, be kind of caught up in the rubble from the explosion. Lisa go. I'm assuming. Oh, okay. I thought she was saying she would take Cotton Weary.
She'd have to fight Polar for that.
Right? I was
I
going to
was
say
just
Polar.
about to say, Jen,
I
you have to fight Polar
am not
for that.
interfering in that fight.
Yeah, those are. I think Polar staked her claim on Cotton Weary, but I think she's referring to the person being the killer. I thought she was talking about like the property. I'm telling you guys, I'm so sick right now. My brain is like I'm seeing 3 screens in front of me right now, and I'm just trying to make sense of what's going on. So
Are you trying? Are you competing with Steven?
No, God, no. I can't compete with that man on several levels. I think that by tomorrow and Sunday, I'm going to be much worse. Today's like the first day of all the stuff kicking in. So I was like, you know what? Let's just muscle through. Let's muscle through tonight. And then I can get over it. Okay. Now this is something that was a big part of the movie for me, and I really want to know, what is your guys' thoughts? How did you feel about Mindy's franchise rant? I don't know if anyone wants to go first, if anyone's got an immediate thought, or if you guys need time to think about it.
I don't need time to think about it. I love everything that Mindy does, says. She is my favorite character.
Okay. So you were good with the rant itself.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Bob?
I enjoyed the rant, and I think they kind of, in a way, by throwing Tara and saying that she could be a victim too, I think kind of was throwing a little bit of shade to all those like that were bashing Melissa Barrera kind of being a bad actress and fun. I think they kind of wanted to imply even Tara is not safe, and I actually enjoyed it. I mean, I felt they threw a lot of subtle jabs in there, though.
Right. Sarah, how about you?
I didn't mind it. I know a lot of people really liked it, and I know a lot of people really hated it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I thought it was like a little theatrical and like maybe a little too much of like not an exposition dump, but like an information dump for people who are not caught up with the franchise. Like she over explained it a little too much for me, but I don't have any issues with it. And I like that they kind of have the little rant in every movie. It's something that you can kind of count on as, that legacy from Randy. But I thought it was fine.
So, Jen, please don't be mad at me.
Okay.
Please. I did not like it at all. It felt like, and I'm not just her in general. This is how I envisioned that scene happening. I felt like the directors were like, we've got 4 minutes to shoot a scene, and they just told Jasmine Savoy Brown, I need you to just make up stuff on the spot about what you think a franchise is in a horror movie. And then they just said action. That is how that scene played out for me. I don't disagree with everything that she was saying as far as how she was explaining what a franchise is. It did not come off as authentic. Like anytime Randy talked, right? And granted, I know it's Randy. You believed that he knew what the hell he was talking about. He was our guy that was narrating everything about these movies. I thought in 5, I thought she did a good job on explaining what a requel was. But the franchise thing, I was not buying it at all. Like it didn't work. And there was another line, and I don't know if this is the writing that's at fault. I don't want to say that it's her at fault, but there was a line earlier in the movie when they're at the frat party, where Annika's asking her, hey, aren't you nervous being at a house party and being attacked and all this stuff? And Mindy goes, No, I'm not worried at all. The likelihood of getting attacked again is the equivalent of being struck by lightning twice.
Yeah.
But if she's the resident expert on horror movies and how all this stuff happens, she should know better, right? I mean, lightning struck twice with, well, it struck how many times with Dewey, struck how many times with the original cast, her uncle, right? It struck twice with him. She should know better than to do that. So I don't know if it's a writing. I mean, obviously that comes down to the writers, but it just, that left a sour taste in my mouth. And then the franchise rant it did not feel organic and it didn't feel believable for me.
Could she have been saying that just to make Annika feel better?
Which part? Oh, in the beginning, that did cross. Yeah, that did cross my mind at the party.
Not just that. If you think about this, she kind of still has that cold streak in her like 5. Maybe she really hasn't learned until now that it did strike twice. Because she still kind of had that little bit of arrogance in her, like, it won't happen to me.
That's fair. Can you guys, I'm going to ask this question. I'll go to the chat about this topic when we get back. I got to step away for 2 seconds. Okay. I promise I'm not going to throw up. But so when they get to the whiteboard, when we go back to where Kirby and Dermot Mulroney are kind of brainstorming like all the shit that's happening, all the evidence that's been collected. Did you guys catch the question mark next to where Stu's head was? And then I know what some of you want it to believe, but do you think they were hinting that Stu is still alive? So, Bob, I'll let you go. And then whoever wants to go next, I just got to step away for 2 seconds. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Now, personally, for me, I don't think in that scene they were hinting Stu still being alive. I think that was more as into where the mask could be. Because if you kind of take notice with the whole order of the masks and everything, I mean, it kind of fit more there with that, in my honest opinion. Now, until I rewatch it for the 11th time and pay even more attention to it, I'm not sure. But that's where I'm standing at right now, is it was more just where the mask is accounted for.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love for them to find a way to do something with Stu. But realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. And I just think they know how to get the fans excited and get us riled up about it.
Oh, definitely.
I didn't really see Stu stand out in that either. What surprised me is that they actually said that Roman was the only killer.
Oh, yeah. I am I unmuted? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't. Okay, so I didn't catch what Bob said. I don't know who else weighed in. But did you guys think that they were hinting at Stu?
Not in that scene. Not in that scene.
Okay, good, because I've heard some people say like they've already started the theory videos on the Stu's alive stuff, which believe me, I want to believe. It's like the X-Files. I want to believe. But I've heard them go, there was clearly a question mark next to Stu's head, and which, with you couple this with this and this, then that means that he's alive. And it's like, but if you watch that scene
there
again.
There was one with Mickey.
Yeah, and it wasn't next to just Mickey. What I think it was next to Mickey and Mrs. Loomis and Billy and
Mrs.
Stu.
Loomis mask. Yeah, because Mrs. Loomis mask was
right.
missing.
Yeah, it's where the mask
Stu's mask was missing, and Billy's mask was not accounted for.
Right. Those are the masks that are still outstanding. So I was curious if that had swayed you in any way, because to me it just was it was not what I'm already hearing. I mean, I've heard some theories that I'm like, really? Like, I'm not saying that I'm the end all be all of theory videos, but like some of the stuff that people are using from just like that alone, it just doesn't I don't know, man. It's like you want to overlook stuff just to make what you want fit, and it just, I don't know. It's crazy.
I mean, I would buy more into them hinting Stu being alive with what happened to Ethan. Like, I could believe that more as a hint than a sticky note, which was also where Mrs. Loomis would be on that board.
What do you mean with what happened to Ethan?
Like, with the TV dropping. Like, I could buy them trying to make something out of that, and Ethan and Stu coming back. I could see them going
Okay. So
that route.
had Ethan survived,
If
I was going to say, if anything,
yes.
if that was the straw that broke the camel's back, it would insinuate more that Stu wasn't going to live. But no. I'm picking up what you're putting down now. So, yeah, Bearded said that there's no hint to that. There was a question mark next to Mickey and Nancy. Yeah, okay. So it wasn't okay. We're all in agreement. Thank God, because I've heard so many theories, and I just wanted to know if I've got a live panel here that can explain it to me, if why this is a, one of the smoking guns that
because people want clout on a big theory and capitalize on Stu videos.
That's true. That's true. People. Thankfully, there are some people out there that I've seen that are like, "Look, I'm a Stu fan, but like, you got to stop with this stuff, like, because things like this they make people more resentful, and it like fuels the fire of the Stu haters. And so then when you put a video out, like I had to, my last theory video, I had to like preface by saying this does not revolve around Stu, like, don't worry, if you want that, you can go to this video, but like it's crazy. So anyways, we'll move on, and we're going to move on to the sequence of events that happened at Gale's apartment. What did you guys think? Who wants to go first? What were your guys' feelings on Gale's apartment? This was the one that I had heard from the early screenings that was saying this scene is better than the chase scene that we get in Scream 2. Does anybody subscribe to that, or was it like it was good but not better than that? Jen, where do you feel? Or how do you feel?
I actually think it was better because I didn't feel like the scene in Scream 2 was so much a chase as, okay, I move here, you move there. He was actually chasing her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was it was a fight scene. And
right.
I thought it was just done so much better.
Okay. So you were happy with how everything played out at Gale's. I mean, there were people that were complaining, I guess, when you start doing the math on who would have been the killer. They were complaining about it being Quinn being the one that took out her boyfriend who was super yoked. But I've kind of made my peace with, if they're going to die on the hill of Amber killed Dewey, then it just is what it is at this point. So you had no issues with...
I'll never believe that Amber killed Dewey, and I don't believe that it was Quinn.
Okay,
but
who do you think killed Dewey's? I mean, not Dewey. Gosh dang it, Gale's boyfriend.
I think it was probably Ethan.
But wasn't he with them all in the van?
Yeah, he was all with the gang.
Yeah, so that's actually kind of a good segue into why I really liked it. So I think, Jen, you missed at the beginning, but I had actually had Ethan and Detective Bailey spoiled for me. So I went into the movie assuming that, those were the two killers and that was it. So in that scene when everybody is together in the park with Ethan and Bailey, and then Gale gets the call, that's when I got super excited because I was like, oh my God, there's 3. There's somebody new, like, the game is still afoot. So I was like pumped. So unless they're going the route of there is a 4th killer and we won't know about them until 7, like it had to be Quinn. And just kind of like Mav said, like if we're going to believe that Amber killed Dewey, I guess I can believe that Quinn took out the boyfriend and parkoured over Gale's living room and all of that.
It's a hard one. I mean, okay, yeah, I do remember him being in the van now, but have a hard time with believing that it was Quinn.
Yeah, and Bearded brings up a fantastic point. So you mean the manly grunts coming from Ghostface, which was a very interesting because you do hear it. I mean, it's clear as day. It I don't want to say that Quinn isn't capable of manly grunts. I don't know her from a hole in the wall, but those sounded like a man. It was coming from a man. So I get the confusion, and I get why you would believe because we don't get really like the context of time a lot in these films, Jim. So I get why you would assume that it was Ethan. And like Bearded said, I mean, basically, yes, it is a manly grunt. But he also says something that I agree with. And Bob, I'll let you go before I go. But that for him, it was nowhere near Scream 2. He said Gail basically ran in a circle, out one door and in the other. Bob, where do you stand on The Apartment? Was it a home run for you, or?
Sorry, I just saw Nick's comment.
Uh-oh. Oh yeah, Quinn heard enough grunting in her bedroom because she was. Yeah, I made a joke in one of Atnat's live stream. I was like, when she said she was sex positive, is that her way, the Gen Z way of saying that she's got an STD? She's STD positive. Like, man, that was very interesting choice of words to explain how she is very promiscuous, but funny. So, Bob, where were you with Gail's Apartment?
I enjoyed it for what it was, but it comes nowhere near Scream 2. Scream 2 was a far more cat and mouse type of thing, and it just worked so much more to me. Chase scenes to me don't have to be literally just trying
like
to
running.
outrun Ghostface. It's about, can you out trick whoever you're being chased by? And she was kind of like that, one step ahead, and one wrong move would have been her death. So to me, 2 did it so much better, but 6 had a decent one for what 6 was. She's much older. She's not going to be able to play that cat and mouse like she used to.
Right.
But she fought real hard. I mean, she fought really well.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
I mean, she fought like Sidney.
And I'm going to say this. I don't think it was Quinn either. I personally think it's going to be Danny. They can say what they want, and I'm not saying you couldn't go down the road of Stu doing it, but something tells me it was Danny. I'm still
telling
not
you,
trusting him.
And I'll get into. I have a whole question about all of that, but yes, he was unaccounted for a lot during that movie.
Yes.
Real quick, our good friend Katie from Popping the Popcorn is here. Katie,
Hey,
thank you for coming and hanging out. Glad to have you, and I'm glad you're back. I know you've been kind of traveling and stuff. So Katie's got a great YouTube channel. Please check her out if you're not subscribed to her. She puts out a ton of stuff. So yeah, subscribe to Katie's channel, Popping the Popcorn. So I did like Gail's Apartment. I don't think that while I agree on a technicality, Jen, that Scream 2 wasn't necessarily a chase because it wasn't running. It lacked not that it wasn't suspenseful, but it lacked the suspense and the having me on my edge of my seat. That Scream 2 still gets me. I mean, I've seen it, and it's still every now and then like I'm white knuckling it, because I'm like, shit, dude, this is so good, so good. But I liked it. I really enjoyed the phone call. We finally get the phone call, right? At least me, I'm assuming most of us wanted that phone call between Gail and Ghostface. We didn't get the voice changer, Bob. I know that was something you were going to hoping for, where he was going to call in Dewey's voice.
Well, hey, you know what? He still was taunting her with Dewey, talking about how he's carved up in that. So I still got somewhat of what I wanted. He did taunt her with Dewey.
Right. So we did get there. It was a consolation prize. It wasn't everything that we wanted, but that was good. I enjoyed it. I don't think it was, like I said, Scream 6 to me, it feels like right now it's a lot of shiny new toys. I feel like it's gonna be similar to Scream 5 for a lot of people, where as it ages, I think it's not going to hold up as well as it's holding up at the moment. But speaking of Gail's apartment, and Jen, you talked about she was a fighter. Yes, she was. And I loved the scene where she put him on hold and called him right back.
Yes,
Where
that
you,
was great.
right? It just shows her experience with this. Like she's a veteran, right? She's a seasoned vet. She's like, hold on one second, and you hear, wait, what? And then she calls him back, fires him. Did you guys think though that was going to be the end of her story? Did you think her story was ending right there? Bob, did you think that was it for her?
No, something told me in the back of my mind somehow something's going to happen where either the paramedics get there or they're going to do a cutaway and like at the end we find out she was still alive, even if it was a weak pulse or something, some nonsensical thing. Because if you're not going to have Nev be able to come back, you're probably going to try to bank on Courtney and Kirby once again.
Okay.
Like that's kind of where my mind was at that time. So, and then at one point, when she did kind of go, I'm like, okay, maybe they are taking the big risk in killing her. And then, then we heard the one line, "Oh, she's got a faint pulse."
Right. And that was going to be my follow-up question was, did you like how they wrote it in the end? So we are led to believe that this is potentially it for Gail. And then we don't see her the rest of the movie. Were you satisfied, or do you think that was kind of weak?
I felt it was weak, but it was stronger than what they did with Mindy. I mean, Mindy's just running around like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
At least Courtney is technically in the hospital like something happened.
They should all be in surgery, but again, we're just suspending our disbelief.
I know, right? I mean, like I said, you have to suspend some disbelief. Some of the things that you shouldn't even have to, like we were talking about with the shrine, you shouldn't even need to do that. It's a real easy one-liner. Yeah, these are all props. These, whatever. Like Bearded brings up, Gail smacks Quinn right across the face with the iron. I mean, that's a cast iron skillet, dude. Those things are heavy as shit.
That could kill a man.
Exactly.
And explain to me how when we have Quinn's reveal, how is there no marks on her from that cast iron?
Well, eventually,
I'm sorry, I can suspend my disbelief for certain things, but you tell me you did it with Mickey and the car thing. How can you not get something like that right?
Eventually, we see a brick does the trick, though. Brick does the trick.
After the brick, though, so a little too late.
It's like those. I'm telling you, it's like those masks are Teflon, man. So Jen, did you think this was the end of her story? And then once you initially, did you think this was the end of her story?
I didn't, but I went into it thinking that she was going to live.
Right.
So I didn't.
Were you satisfied how it played out? I know that you wanted her to live, but like how they just kind of wrote it in as a one-liner, like she's gonna pull through. Would you rather have?
Well, it's not that I wanted her to live. I just thought she would. I don't know that she necessarily is going to. I mean, we don't know. I mean, she wasn't out of the hospital. Anything could happen. She's in her 50s.
Right.
She's not Chad, like a youngster like Chad.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to Chad. Sarah, how about you? Did you think this was the end? Did you think Gail was dying right there?
No, so I really went into the movie just assuming Gail was going to survive. I was like, how can they take Dewey from us in 5 and then Gail from us in 6? But there was like a split second there at the end when she's like, don't tell Sid that like he got me. And then her like eyes closed and I was like, oh my God, are we going to lose Gail? And of course not. But how she ended, I really think that they could have cut like a minute and a half out of that like frat party Halloween scene at the beginning and did like a minute and a half check-in with like Mindy and Gail at the hospital. Just like show me how Gail's doing and show Mindy like taking off.
Right. Well, I mean, it was the longest Scream movie that we've gotten, so I agree. They could have. I agree with you. One, I didn't think this was going to be it for her. Nothing at this point in the movie had led me to believe that there were really any stakes. I just hadn't seen it. I didn't think that they were going to do it. Not with the. I guess it would have. It's to me, it always goes down to the location of the stab, and even then, right? It's like, if she got stabbed in the neck like Wes, right? You could be like, okay, yeah, he ain't surviving that. But the glass shard to the side, it was like, God, that's as much as I hate Dewey's death, them gutting him from groin to sternum, like there was just, you're like, he ain't coming back as much as I want. But I hated the fact that it was just a one-off line, like Gail's gonna survive, like that just, I don't know. I agree with you, Sarah. If you could have given me a scene where, she's in the hospital, maybe in a coma like Sidney was in Scream 4 for a temporary coma or a medically induced coma, something like that. I feel like it would have been handled. That's just a little bit of a better way to handle it.
I don't know. You guys might get your wish with the opening of 7, though.
We could. It depends on how the time span, right, that they spend between whatever, if it's going to be 3 weeks later or 6 months later, right? And so you're right, Bob. You're right. We may get our wish. So after Gale's scene, Sam and Tara arrive. They pick up Gale's gun. Ghostface escapes. The next big scene that we get is the subway scene. And we saw how most of that was going to play out in the trailers. But were you satisfied, or again, did it feel like there was too much shown in the trailer? Sarah, I'll start with you.
I think they showed a lot of it in the trailer, like the same as I felt for the ladder scene. Like most of the promo seemed to be in the subway, but like I still enjoyed the scene, but like we kind of knew we basically saw Mindy getting stabbed. Like we knew just from the way it looked, she was going to be separate from them. We kind of had all of the context clues we needed to know how that was going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I still enjoyed it.
Yes. Okay. Bob.
I'm in agreement. I mean, yeah, we kind of knew how it was going to play out, but, and this goes into why I'm also saying Danny is really sus in this. I mean, without Danny pushing himself up on everybody to pretty much separate them from Mandy, you can kind of argue he's why Mandy and Ethan were on their own.
I'm glad that you caught that. That was something that I did note. And that is why I still, like, when we get to the third act reveal and we see there's still one unmasked killer, I was like, it's Danny, right? Danny was the one that facilitated that whole separation. But so you were good with it. Like wasn't.
Yeah,
okay.
Oh yeah, I was fine with it.
And Jen, how about you?
Yeah, I was fine with it. Again, most of it was in the trailer, so we knew what was going to happen. I actually didn't think of the whole Danny thing. That makes a lot of sense, though.
Right. Yeah, that was one big thing that was like, shit. Because I was confused, right? Like I said, the spoilers that I got was that it was Danny and that it was Gail's boyfriend. And I'm like, are they doing a Roman with Gail's boyfriend? Like what the hell? Like,
Which
how did that?
Which I'm not gonna lie, I'm not. That's where my mind was during that whole Gail scene. I'm like, that's Danny. It's somehow the boyfriend faked his own death. Like, I'm thinking all this, and I wasn't even spoiled. And this is going through my own head.
Right. Memo Boy's got to leave the chat. He enjoyed the stream. Thanks for a great chat. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Memo Boy. I really appreciate it, man. Means a lot, dude. Really does. Yeah, and so I agree. I loved the subway. To me, the subway scene, visually, like from a cinematography standpoint, was the best. Where the lights are coming in and out, and you kind of see Ghostface 1 minute, and then he disappears the next, and then he reappears a little closer. The lighting, right? You get the red and blue lights, you get all that stuff, and I was always holding out hope that when we saw that in the trailer, that was something like a cutting room floor thing where they decided they were going to go a different route with it. But as it's playing out, you're like, well, we know what's going to happen. Now it's just, is Mindy going to live or die? Right? Is that what's going to happen? I freaking love that scene though. To me, that is the best visually. That's the most stunning scene in the film for me. So I really really enjoyed it. But well, you know what? There's one more incident that happens at that subway. It was cool. Number one, seeing all the horror movie characters on the other cart. But one more plot issue that comes up that we'll bring up towards the end. So we're done with the subway, and now we get to the shrine. We're back at the shrine. The main cast has Kirby, and they have Dermot Mulroney who are helping them. They're gonna hunt they're gonna trap Ghostface, I should say, in their little kill box. But Sam gets a call from Detective Bailey, and he says that Kirby's become unhinged. She doesn't work for the FBI anymore, and that she's the one who set the trap. Did any of you guys believe that Kirby was the one who was orchestrating this whole thing?
No.
Yes.
Jen says yes. So
Yes.
let's start with Jen.
I suspected her from the minute we saw her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did. I mean, I turned to my friend that I went to see it with. I said, I don't trust her at all.
Fair enough. Okay, Sarah, you said no, so let's hear.
I believed her at the beginning when she was talking about like the reasons that she went into the FBI, like the trauma that she had from Charlie and how she wanted to like help people, and that was just like so genuine that I just can't see her then killing people after everything she went through.
Right. Okay, Bob, did you think that Kirby was? I mean, she may still be unhinged, right? But did you think she was? Which, real quick, the Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast is stopping by, saying, "Evening, folks. Hey, man, thanks for stopping by. I don't know if it's Frank or Darren, but thanks for coming by, man. I appreciate it." Did you think that she was unhinged, dude? Did you think that? I mean, that she was Ghostface. I'm sorry, unhinged, possibly, right? Regardless of Ghostface or not. But
unhinged is possibly, but I definitely thought she was a Ghostface. I just
okay,
did not trust her at all.
Fair enough. So you and Jen are kind of in the same camp. Bob, you might want to step out and step back in. Your mic's doing that thing again. Okay, yeah, and I agree. I do think that she's possibly dealing with some PTSD. But when he gave Sam that phone call, it's funny. My wife is a very casual Scream fan. And like the second that he called and said that, we both looked at each other and went, "What?" Like it just nothing up to that point had sold me that was even a possibility. So I was pretty dead set on Dermot, on Detective Bailey. It's so damn hard to say that guy's name, his full name. So Detective Bailey, I was pretty dead set on him, and I saw, to me, I was like, no, he's trying to throw her off. And the fact that Kirby had disappeared, that was something that was cause for concern, that made me go, maybe they're working together and this is his way of turning on her so he doesn't have to kill her, that Sam would go after her. But yeah, I wasn't really buying it. Okay. So what, Sarah, I know that you have talked about the third act. I want to give you the floor and let you vent. You can do good and bad, right? Give me the third act is very polarizing, I think, amongst the fans. I want to give you the floor. And what was it that either worked or didn't work for you in the third act?
I feel like it just went from 0 to 100. Like, I felt the rest of the film was just like it could breathe, like the pacing was good, and then all of a sudden it's just like chaos. And it's just like stuff just keeps getting weirder. It's like, yeah, it's like all of a sudden Kirby disappears and you're like, is she dead? And then you get the call and Dermot's like trying to make you think that she's involved and like everyone's separated, but then you're having like very strange like emotional moments, like the moment between Sam and Gail when Dewey's theme starts playing, and then like I'm like, what is the mood supposed to be here? Like, shouldn't we be all on red alert? Like, why are we splitting up? What is happening? And then it's just, I don't know, it just everything was very frantic and happening all at once, which was like just a change from the pace for the rest of the movie.
Right.
And I don't have these like major issues with it. It's just like all these little things like Chad being stabbed 17 times, like, and living. And it's like, it's just all these little things that just all seem to be weird, just packed in the end of a movie, added up to me just not enjoying the third act as much as the first two.
Gotcha. Yeah, Jason. All great points. Spin the wheel.
Give
We're
it a
gonna get to
rest,
that.
Jason.
I promise. I promise we're gonna get to that. That's funny. So I agree with you, Bob. How did the third act play out for you? Did you enjoy it? Was it a mess? Was it flawsome? Where do you stand with that? Where do you stand with the third act?
For me, I actually think it's up there to hold the film up for legendary for me. I mean, if you think about, yeah, a lot is going on, but when really everything's all playing into Sam. Is Sam going to turn or not? And it's playing with your head so much, especially at that last part of that third act. It's like I want you to wear this mask. I want you to do this. And then it kind of turns and we see that transformation of where she forgives that her father was a serial killer. And she lets that go. And now it's just about her protecting Tara. And I thought it was flawless to me.
And Jen, what about you?
I loved everything about the third act except the reveal. Honestly, I thought it was done really well. The whole thing about Tara, let me go, and it was just it was a moment for the two of them. It was a really strong moment for the two of them.
Right.
And I don't know. I just like the way they wound everything up until the reveal.
Right.
And
so
we're not at the reveal yet, though, right?
No, we're gonna get there pretty quick. But
Okay.
I mean, we all know. I mean, it's a spoiler stream, so if there's anything else you want to say about it, you can totally elaborate because we're talking third act. Anything goes at this point. So much like the movie, anything goes.
Well, I just felt like, oh God, here we go again with the reveal. And my first thought when they revealed themselves was, Jake's gonna have a cow.
Right, but I think
like,
he ended up really liking this movie, regardless.
He did,
so.
but I raced home and I sent him a message. I said, Richie's family.
Right, exactly. Richie's father.
I was just like, no, not again.
Right.
Because I just don't think Richie was that much of a draw for me as a killer. I mean, I don't believe that Amber did everything that she said she did, but it was made to seem like she did more than he did. So for it to be Richie's family is just like, eh.
Yes, I'm with you. And so Extron, he says, I know quite a bit of fans hate the third act, but come on, it wasn't the bet. It's totally subjective, right? Like it's not a concrete fact, but I'm going to go into why this third act was such a mess for me. Before I do that, I'll say the positive things, right? Which was one of the things that has always been on my wish list for any Scream movie was to see two Ghostface attack one person.
Yes.
I absolutely hated that it was Chad. He is, since Dewey's passing, he has become my favorite character. And so when he gets knifed, first, when he's about to finish off one of the Ghostface, I'm like, shit. And then we see them do the, just going at it on him. And he probably got stabbed close to 30 times, maybe more. I don't know. I didn't count.
17.
17 times. Okay. I was like, dude, like it tugged at my heartstrings. And the one thing that was a little corny was the knife swipe at the same time. Like it kind of reminded me of like Three Ninjas. I don't know if you guys remember that movie, but it reminded me of Three Ninjas. Another thing that I enjoyed was the scene where, like you were talking about, or we were talking about earlier, where Sam and Tara are surrounded by the Ghostface killers, right? It's like hyenas, around gazelles, right? And they're looking around, and eventually Quinn gets the teeth knocked out of her mouth, which probably should have happened, a whole 15, 20 minutes sooner. But seeing her spit the teeth out of her mouth, that was freaking awesome. Tara, the scene like you were talking about, Jen, where she gets lowered down, or she convinces, right, that underlines story arc that we get where Sam is the helicopter parent, and Sarah at this point, her life is on the line, and says, you got to let me go. And she does. She gives her the knife. She lets her go. We get that super cool practical effect of the knife in Ethan's mouth. Freaking fantastic. I loved all that stuff. Even when Sam goes chop suey on Detective Bailey at the end, I loved watching her do that. But for me, the negatives outweigh the positives. And so when Detective Bailey is revealed as the head of the killers, his persona becomes more comedic than menacing for me. I don't like where he's like, of course it's me. Like I was waiting for him to like pull out a cigar and go, yeah, see, like it was weird. It was such a weird change of pace. But Ethan felt like he was trying to impersonate Stu Macher, but it was like a discount Stu Macher where he's like spitting and like his thing the only person that actually made me believe they were psychotic was Quinn. Quinn actually made me feel like she was psychotic. The biggest, there's two parts towards the end of the movie that really jacked me up in my head. And the one is when Sam is on the second story of the theater and she caps Bailey right between the eyes, right? And you see Bailey's body drop, and Detective Bailey is standing behind her, and she has her gun pointed at him, gets a click, no bang. And she's kind of like, well, fuck it. And they run at each other like Braveheart. Detective Bailey has a loaded gun pointed at her and does not fire one round at her, only for them to collide and fly over the corner. I get it. They didn't want to have their main character die. That's fine. But there's other ways to get to the final kill where we get Sam take out Detective Bailey. There's other ways to get there than to do something like that, where he's got the gun pointed at her and does not shoot around. Can anybody explain why he didn't shoot?
When you lose a loved one like that right up close and personal, you're not thinking about pulling the trigger. You might be having it pointed, but your mind is in utter shock. You don't know what's happening.
Well, but if that's the frame of mind that you have, which he's a trained law enforcement officer to begin with. I'm not saying that's going to get him over that, right? He watched his daughter get killed right in front of him. But if your end game is to kill Sam, knowing there's a potential that you might lose a kid or two along the way because they're your accomplices, don't you think you need to outline that, or like you need to prepare yourself mentally that, hey, one of my kids might die in the process. My other kid, my oldest kid, just died trying to kill these two. I better be able to pull the trigger when I need to. Like to
No,
me,
'cause
it's just too wacky.
No,
like
because hear me out. While I think Kirby could be derailed, if you want to be technical, he could have been talking about himself that was derailed. He might have known he wasn't all hinged. He's all out and not thinking. Because he does seem like the guy that would do something stupid. I mean, Quinn was more of the intelligent one. I could have seen Quinn being the mastermind of that all.
To me, that's just it's too wonky, man. Like,
well, it is.
I don't
I'm
know.
agreeing, but if you logically think about it, I mean, he could have easily been talking about himself instead of Kirby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. What about you guys? Was that? Did you guys even? Did that bother you? Did you catch that?
When he pointed the gun at her, was she wearing the mask yet? The outfit yet?
No, this was when they were on the second story.
Right. He wanted her in. He wanted to kill her in that costume.
Yeah, that too.
I think he was holding out for that.
Yeah, because he kept saying, "Put on the costume. I want you to put this on.
I think that was to have her DNA on it so that they could make her the killer. Because that's the whole social commentary aspect.
Exactly. So why would you kill her right then and there? Even
you
if
could
you're
have still put the mask on her and had her DNA all over it.
I think he wanted to kill the killer.
Yeah, he wanted to be the one that killed her in that costume.
In that costume.
In his own mind, it's like he was avenging Richie that way.
Yeah.
That's just, it's too thin for me because even, okay, so after that, then they both fly over the edge. And I know it would be anticlimactic of an ending, but like Sam, instead of just picking up his loaded gun and shooting and killing him there, decides to go and put on the mask, give him what he wants, only to play a game with him when she could have ended it all because she's still putting herself and her sister at risk. Again, those are things that like you don't need to go there because it's a cool ending, right? It's a cool ending what she ends up doing where she puts on the mask, she surprises him, she stabs the shit out of him, which by the way, again, he had the gun pointed at her when she's in the mask and he doesn't shoot at her at all. He just puts his gun in the air and goes, ah, as he's being stabbed. Never once does he just, even as he's getting stabbed, move the gun down and shoot her. It's like they did a lot of things to get to that point that they didn't need to do. There's other creative ways for me to get there that just, I don't know. That whole third act was a disaster for me. There was good aspects. There was really cool things in there, but it just logically, it fell completely apart. I don't know. Nothing will, because on subsequent watch, it was even worse. The second time I watched it, it was even worse than the first time. So I don't know if I'll be able to digest it or look past it. So that's where I stand with the third act. But I've got more questions for you guys, and we'll try to hammer through it because we're coming up on 3 hours, and I really am hurting. But we're gonna get through these last questions. We're gonna do a wheel spin, a quick wheel spin, a one and done, and then we're gonna get out of here. So, did you guys have anything else you wanted to add to the third act before we move on?
Yeah.
No, I guess. I will just add my review of it seemed probably kind of negative, but like there was parts of it that I also really enjoyed. I just thought it felt kind of scattered.
Okay, that's fair.
I actually loved when Ethan said to Tara, "I've always wanted to stick it to you," and then she just turns and stabs him. That was great.
Pretty funny. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. For me,
Bob,
I love the transformation of Sam. I mean, we're seeing that fighting spirit, and she gave up that past now. That was solidified with the hallucination being more translucent and dropping the mask.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Puller kind of sums it up the way I felt. Like it feels like it was written by somebody different. So I mean, I there's a lot of comments that I'm glossing over, but it's just a time thing. Okay, so who gave the best Ghostface performance after the reveal? I already said mine. It was Quinn. Bob, who do you think?
Quinn.
Quinn. Sarah?
Quinn.
And Jen?
I will say Quinn too, and not because she was smarter, but because she is a true psychopath. She didn't care.
Right.
She felt nothing.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Did you guess the Ghostface motives before we got the reveal and before we heard it? And did you like the motive? Jen, I will go with you.
No, I didn't. I didn't guess it, and I didn't like it.
Gotcha. Sarah?
I didn't guess it because I was so caught up in the fact that there were 3, because like I said, I went in having Richie and Dermot spoiled for me. So I spent my whole the last act going, but who is the third, that I wasn't even thinking about what the motive could be. So no, I didn't guess the motive, and I thought it was fine. I thought it was a nice homage to 2, but I'm really hoping it's more creative in 7.
Right. Bob, how about you? Did you guess the motive, and did you like the motive?
I guessed the motive. I didn't like all the motive. I did like the fact they wanted to try to pin it all on Sam, and kind of putting her behind that costume. I mean, because let's face it, everybody kind of was going off the assumption Sam would become a killer. So I kind of feel like they were kind of rubbing it in people's faces that we're not turning her into a killer, people.
Right. So I did guess the motive. There was a scene that solidified it for me, where my assumption was already that Dermot was Richie's father, Quinn was the sister. But it was when after Quinn's death, he makes the when you mess with my family, you die. And he had that look kind of while he was staring at Sam, and Sam responds with, same here, or she says, same as me. So the retreading of Scream 2's motive was a little boring, I will admit. But the social commentary that that we kind of hinted at earlier, where they were their first goal was to assassinate her character by spreading those rumors and starting the conspiracy theories on social media. I thought it was very slick and good social commentary on the current times, right? We've seen other movies try to input social commentary very clunky and not so subtle. I really like that, right? Where it's the court of public opinion is you're guilty until proven innocent, which is the opposite of how the justice system should work. So I really did enjoy that part of the motive. But as far as it being the family thing, it was kind of, I guess you couldn't have both you couldn't have the social commentary thing. And I guess it could have been a friend or something. But the fact that it was, like you said, Richie's father, that was kind of, that was a little whack to me. Okay. What did you think in the end when it's revealed that Chad is still alive after possibly what could have been the coolest kill in the franchise? Jen.
I was really surprised that he was still alive. I mean, yeah, they're doing a Dewey again, but
right.
No, it was just it was hardly believable.
Right. I literally said out loud, you got to be fucking kidding me. Really? And I wanted Chad to live. Like I said, he's my new favorite character in this franchise. I didn't want him to die, but I was just you got to be fucking joking right now.
I know. Because, I mean, twice he's now gotten, really, really torn up.
Yeah, if we're being honest, he should have bled out in 5.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'm glad he survived. I liked him as a character.
How does he have any more blood in his
body? I was just this is a little, if you were gonna, go the Dewey route, don't stab him 17 times.
Right.
Dewey was only stabbed 9 times in the whole franchise.
Total.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Bob, what about you? Were you shocked? Did you like the decision? Did you think like maybe do that kill with another character?
I think it fit perfect because when you logically think about when Screams 1, 2, and 3 did it, it was quick, and that was more shock factor at that time how he was getting attacked and survived. Now we're in the modern time. That's more shocking for the younger audience. We might disagree with it, but if the younger audience feels it fits the narrative for them, hey, more power to them. I can't joke because it is meant for a different generation. It's not really so much meant for us. I mean, they want to implement things for us, but they're kind of saying our time is passe, so to speak.
Right.
Bob, like for real, like I will just quickly say, like my screening of the movie was packed with like high school girls that were like cosplaying as Wednesday. Like this is for a whole new. Like I'm serious. Like this is for a new generation. The Jenna Ortega factor is in full effect.
Yeah,
mine was a bunch of Demi Lovato fans. That's all I got.
Yeah,
There was hardly anybody in my theater.
yeah. I would prefer that, Jen, over. I mean, I had a cool theater experience, but over some of the experiences that I've had where like it's just like people won't shut up. Like I would prefer an empty theater. Blueberry says the fact that they rolled out right on cue when Tara remembered him was too much. My eyes rolled so hard that but it made sense as a requel. Fair enough. Okay,
But
so
I
speaking
will say, but I do have one thing to say about that whole scene. I've heard people saying that Chad went and took the mask off. No, Tara came over and ripped the thing off and started kissing him. Chad did not take the time to do that. He did not. It was all Tara.
Yep.
But speaking of Mindy, since Blueberry brought up Mindy, when she comes running up after being stabbed in the subway, did anybody have a problem with that? I mean, not that she. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry. Realistically, unless your hospital in New York is dead empty, there is no logical way. She would be sedated so they could sew her up.
Yep.
That wasn't like a small little stab wound. I mean, that went deep.
Right.
She'd be getting stitched up.
Yeah, I equate it to the end of like Halloween and the opening of Halloween Kills. I'm like, they're basically the same injuries, like a good deep stab. And you see Lori fully sedated in surgery. She recovers for a whole movie, but somehow we have Mindy just running back to the crime scene. Like,
well, I mean, Tara too, because Tara was stabbed in the stomach and in the back. And at the end, she's crying and running over to Chad, and like Bob said, yanking his oxygen mask off when that nobody needs oxygen more than him at that moment.
I mean, that could have actually killed him. So congratulations,
right,
you almost killed your new boyfriend. So good job there, Tom.
Yeah, it goes back to in Mindy's franchise speech, she talks about that nobody's safe, right? Like. But when you think about it, the only people that died were kind of either ancillary characters or Ghostface, like people that we cared nothing. We didn't care much about them. I will say this movie did a better job at the character development with our main cast. I do think that they did a phenomenal job compared to Scream 5 as far as character development. But when you go on that speech about franchises and stakes and all that stuff, and then you don't get any of them. Well, it's not for everybody. But did you guys have any issues with plot holes? Was there any plot holes that you guys can think of? I've got 4 that were really big, and I think we've hit on a few of them. But did any of you guys have issues with plot holes?
A couple. Like I know that this is a polarizing opinion. I still just don't understand how nobody made the connection that they were related to Richie. Like it just bothers me.
Yes. Well, Gail wrote the book. You would think that would be a huge chapter, right? Like the fact that Richie's father works as a cop in any form, whether he was a homicide detective for another agency before NYPD, you would think that would be a topic of conversation, or you would think that they would have unveiled that Richie Kirsch was an alias and that he's actually Richie Bailey, and that maybe the FBI would have been a little bit more involved in doing the workup on who he actually is, right?
Yeah,
You don't think that it would have been such a mystery that his dad was his dad?
According to Radio Silence, it wasn't Bailey or Kirsch.
Yeah, wasn't it the mother's last name?
It was
Didn't,
some other name completely.
I still think you would have been able to identify who he actually was, right?
Yeah.
And if you're doing an investigative book on Woodsboro murders, Gail can find the shrine. I'm sure she could have figured out what Richie's real name is. One of the big ones.
But who's to say Gail was writing it about Richie? It sounded more like she just wanted to slander Sam and everything in that. I think it might have been more about her.
That's fair, but still, it's that I think that's kind of a big. To me, that's a big one. And not everything that I say or that Sarah says or that you guys say that may be a plot hole bothers other people. One of them for me that was like early was in nowhere in, at least in the United States, I don't know about anywhere else, would the lead detective on a triple homicide where Sam is the basically suspect number one, there's things called conflicts of interest. Detective Bailey would have never been assigned to that case. They would have never let him, knowing that the roommate of the prime suspect is his daughter. Would have never happened. Never happened. I get it. They need that for the story to kind of work out the way that they need to, but it just would have never happened. Like, to me, that's just, again, it goes back to what I'm talking about, where I feel like they don't care to try to make these things accurate. It just, I don't know. It just bothers me. I hate when they do things like that. You couldn't, if her car was broken into, if Bailey's, not Bailey, I keep calling her Bailey, Quinn's car was broken into, he wouldn't be able to investigate that case. Like, you can't be that many layers removed from like family being directly involved with somebody, and especially a triple homicide. That never happened. Never happened. So one of my other problems was, remember when before the prosthetics, which we learned that Quinn was had the attack, and they put prosthetics on and they released her. Do you remember when she was on the phone pretending to talk to, I don't know if it was her dad or another law enforcement officer? Do you guys remember that?
Her dad, but yeah.
So that scene wasn't to throw anybody off other than, like, knowing what we know now. That scene wasn't to throw anybody off but us. Like, that conversation would have never happened because there's nobody involved. Like, nobody was overhearing the conversation for her to want to throw somebody off the trail that she was a killer, right? Like, even her boyfriend who was in the shower, like, nobody was listening. The whole prosthetics thing, whatever, we've seen it done before, so I'm not going to harp on that. But the fact that she's having a conversation with a Ghostface killer while the other Ghostface killer is looming over her body, the only three people that are involved are all killers. Why is she having that conversation? To me, that was just them trying to throw us off the trail, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense to the actual story itself. So
No,
that was
just
another
to throw us off.
Right. That was it. Well, when they do that, like, it doesn't serve the purpose. I can't think of any other Scream movie that has done that, where it's like, it's strictly to throw the audience off. It serves no purpose to the main cast, to affect the main cast. That was another issue that I had. And just like that, with Quinn, they did that with Ethan on the subway. Why is Ethan calling for help for Mindy? Does anybody
I think they just didn't want to reveal him yet.
But to who? There's nobody on that subway that knows that him and Mindy are even related to each other. There's nobody from the main cast that's there, so he can be like, look, I care. I don't want her to die. That was, again, all that was just to throw us off. You know what I mean?
But but if you think about it, Quinn's so psychopathic, he could have easily said, leave her alone. and she kind of went that Jill route and went into liberties for herself.
But they didn't want Mindy to live. Remember? Because at the end they said, now we just got to make sure that Mindy doesn't make it, that Mindy and Gail
Right.
don't pull through.
Yeah,
so
but if
why?
if you think about it, why not have two birds, one stone at that hospital?
That makes it harder. If anything, like you could have left her
not
for
with how
dead.
they make hospitals and Scream. I mean, they're always dead empty.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. But what I'm saying is I have yet to hear an explanation that why would a Ghostface killer call for Mindy for help? Why would he call for her to have assistance? He should have just walked off and gone straight to the shrine to start killing everybody that was there. Right?
I always just thought it was like in case on the off chance like she did make it, that it just wouldn't draw any suspicion to him, or if for some reason there was witnesses that like knew them, that it would just further point to him being.
That's a whole lot of assuming, because so Extron says that he's trying to make himself look innocent to Mindy, but the whole point was for Mindy to die. So what does it matter if he looks innocent or not?
Because think about who was on her number one suspect list. If she does make it through, she's going to instantly say, "Oh, it was Ethan."
Well, then Quinn should have stabbed her better, right? Quinn should have just got the job done right then and there.
Well,
but the whole point of him calling for help makes zero sense. And I will not, I need to hear something like, groundbreaking, that like, I'm not hearing anything that's making me go, oh, okay, yeah, that's perfect. Like, no, you wanted her to die. Don't call for help you're not going to, if you want somebody to die, you're not going to call an ambulance for him.
He called for help. He called for help so Mindy could say, damn, I got it wrong.
Yeah, but if she dies, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether she dies thinking she got it wrong or got it right.
Yeah, but all it takes is one person to be in there. That the outcome would still be the same. If they see her, drag her out, get help, she lives. Ethan's now on that number one suspect list. Boom, you're screwed.
I'm still not buying it. That's not. No offense, guys.
Okay, so if you're a killer and you reveal yourself, you gonna want to.
He didn't do anything. He could have just acted like he didn't know that she got stabbed and walked right off the train. He didn't have to wait for her. She was trying to distance herself from him the entire time.
Well, yeah,
he could have just been like, I didn't know. She was on the train 1 minute. We got off the next stop. I have no idea where she went. I didn't see her. I turned around. I looked. There was a crowd of people. I didn't see her. Boom. There's his excuse. There's nothing. There's no reason why that had to happen. Zero reason. And nobody is making me. No one is making me believe that there is. And that's fair. You can think I'm wrong. I'm totally fine with it. But just nothing is going to make me change my mind on why he called for help for Mindy. I'm just not. The last one that is just, it's almost up there with it, but not quite, is why, if they had the drop on Kirby when they're in the shrine, I don't know who knocked her out, but why did they knock her out and not kill her? Because she's the only other person in the shrine with a gun. So you were able to knock her out. Not only that, you leave her knocked out with a gun on her hip. You don't even take her gun away. Why do you do that? These are the things when I'm watching it that are just making me go, what's happening right now? It could be nitpicky. That's just, unfortunately, that's how my brain is wired. I can't fix it. I can't change it no matter how much I try.
What would have to either be, actually, somehow Ethan would have had to have gotten there and done that quick, because I think he'd be the only idiot that would leave someone alive. Well, I really think he'd be the only idiot to make sure they're not dead.
Well, obviously, because he's the only idiot that has a person dying and calls for help.
Well, no, not just that. They were trying to play that whole Stu angle because he had the Stu mask. And think about the Gale Weathers thing. Like, I thought you checked on her. Yeah, she looked dead. Yeah, yet Gail was still alive.
She had this. Quinn had the Stu mask.
Yeah.
Ethan had the Mrs. Ethan has the Mrs. Loomis mask.
Yeah,
I know, but the way they played it was like kind of the opposite when you think about it. I mean, they had Ethan going around spitting, kind of like Stu in that one scene. I don't know what the heck they were thinking. They kind of played it the opposite.
Right. But Extron brings it up. It's plot armor. And that's kind of what I'm getting to. It's plot armor. But the problem is you just had a scene about franchises talking about how the stakes and everybody's unsafe, which is okay. That's fine. But like literally, we talked about it. Nobody important died. And not that I wanted it, right? Not that I wanted it. I was bummed when they killed Dewey, right? Because it wasn't so much that they killed him as much as it was how they killed him. I felt like they were like, take us serious. And then you give us a Scream 6 where nobody important dies. Nobody. But then you get these scenes where Mindy's left for dead and someone calls for help. Kirby gets knocked out and she's left unconscious with her gun still. What do you think is going to happen? Eventually she's going to wake up and then you got to deal with that threat. So why are we doing this, right? Why do we do this? Tie her up and take her gun if you want to keep her alive. Those are the things. This is why. So it's not that I want to say, because literally there is not a awful Scream movie. I think they're all fun and entertaining to watch. But when we started this stream, I talked about why I'm middling between hot garbage or dumpster fire, whatever it was, and flawed but fun. These are things that do that to me. So I'm trying to justify it. I'm not trying to shit on anybody in here. I'm so grateful for my panel to come and discuss this with me. But these are things when I watch these movies that just make me go, do you not ever do you just surround yourself with yes men? Like I would want a Bob in my corner if I was writing a script to go, no, you can't do that, because if you just knock her out and leave her with her gun, that's stupid, right? I would want somebody.
Well, it depends. If you give me context as to who's doing it, because we saw Ethan being stupid prior to that. If you say Ethan was the one that did it, okay, I'll buy that. But we have to have it revealed that he was the one that like knocked her out and thought she was dead.
We don't know. But anyways, we'll move on from the plot holes. But unless any of you guys have other ones that you want to bring up.
I will say this, it never works well for the dipshit in the mask.
That is true. So the last few questions that I have, and I'm going to put something in the chat just so I know you're here so I can start adding people to the wheel. Did it bother you hearing Dewey's Dewey's theme, the Broken Arrow song? Did it bother you guys?
I loved it. I got all teary-eyed.
I got bummed out. I got bummed out when I heard it. And the only reason is because it reminded me that he was dead.
Yeah.
Right? It's so synonymous with his appearance and his walk or his limp later in the films that it bummed me out. I don't get me wrong. I still love the song itself, but when I heard it, man, it just, God dang, it bummed me out. Cause it was like, I was so caught up in watching the movie that I forgot about what happened in Scream 5. And then I hear his song and I'm like, oh man, they killed him. Like I'm still bummed, but so you guys all liked it. How did you like Ghostface appearance? And then the attacks and the kills? Jen, you go first. Did you like Ghostface appearance?
Which one? I mean, there were 3.
Just in general.
I definitely, I liked it.
Did you like the weathered mask?
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, I think the first 2 acts, when we were only seeing one at a time, and it was the more weathered mask, he looked a lot more menacing, and I really liked him then. The end with the 3 of them kind of got a little cheesy sometimes, but for the most part, yeah.
And Bob?
Oh, I love to do all 3 acts. I mean, I have to agree with Sarah. It did get a little cheesy when it was all 3, but without that ending act, we never would have saw someone giving up their past. So I guess in the end it paid out. So
I'm a sucker for the weathered mask, is what I've learned, because Michael Myers' mask in 2018 became my favorite.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yes, and the weathered cracked mask is It's my thing, man. Like, I friggin' love it. I loved the way that it looked. I thought the kills were really good. There was only one that it's a kill technically, but it's, there's only one that's kind of weak. But the kills and the attacks, I thought that they brought it with Ghostface. So I was pleasantly or I was pleased by the end of it. I was pleased with how that was. So, did any of you guys have any gripes about the kills or the attacks? Obviously, we talked about like Chad living through it, but like how they did Ghostface in general. Anyone?
No, I thought it was good. I know there was like a lot of face stabs and a lot of like
Love the face
aggressive
stabs.
stomach stabbing. Like it just seemed maybe because, well, excluding 5, but like 4 and 3 were relatively tame, that this just seemed a lot more like amped up.
Yes.
I think also with how Sam killed Richie, I think they were trying to emulate that to make it look like it was her, because like she was going hard on like the stabs in the chest and then at night neck slice right there. So I think they kind of were trying to really frame her, and they kind of played with that, because really that was the first time we saw like an aggressive not Ghostface kill like that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so and I guess my next we kind of hit on it was the gore and the effects after the kills. Not enough, too much, or just right. What do you guys think, Jen? Not enough, too much, or just right?
Not enough.
Not enough. You wanted it to be gorier.
Yes.
Okay, Bob. What about you?
For me, it was just right.
Okay, Sarah. How about you?
Save that for Stu.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also in the just right category. In general, I'm not an overly gory person unless it like really lends itself to the story. So I thought this was just right.
Yeah.
I just felt that they promoted the gore so much. I expected more. Like
That's
I
fair.
expected all of it to be like the boyfriend in the bathtub.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because of the way they talked about it, how gory it is. So I was kind of let down. I'm not really big on gore either, but I I was expecting much more.
Yeah. I would have, like I said, I would have liked to see Annika's like maybe some intestines like starting to fall out while she's crawling across the ladder. But for the most part, I would categorize it as just right. It was more just right than not enough. But I did love the locations of the stabs and like the face stabs and
The
the
eye
twisting and
the eye stabs were
the eye stab was another. Yeah, that
could
was
not
another
stand that.
one.
There was so much twisting. It was so visceral.
Right.
To say the MPA didn't mess with it again.
Well, there's that. I've got a whole short series that I'm working on in regards to that. Some of that's out if you guys want to check it out. Regarding Friday the 13th, though. Bob, what was your favorite Ghostface scene?
Okay, I don't want Sam being a killer, but if we're counting that, it would have to be that, because the way she started to taunt Bailey, that he finally got what he wanted. Like for me personally, that was like the right one.
Okay, cool. Jen, how about you?
Jason. Because
Jason,
I was not expected at all, and I loved it.
Very cool. So the kill to Samara and then him unmasking himself was your favorite Ghostface scene?
Oh yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Very cool. And Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with Jen. Like, that was the one that immediately came to mind when you asked the question. I love the shots of when you get Ghostface like looming over someone because he just looks so like big and imposing.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, for me, it still goes back to even though I have an issue with how that scene played out was the subway scene. I loved the lighting and the how they what they did with Ghostface in that. That was my favorite scene involving Ghostface. I thought it was just so brilliantly shot. So we already kind of talked about if who we guessed the killers were, so I'm going to skip past that one. What was the best kill for you, Sarah? What was the best kill for you?
Ooh, like, that's a really good question. Best kill. I mean, I kind of want to say the TV at the end because it was just like a fun little thing.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I really liked the whole exchange with Quinn. That was like my runner-up for a second, like Ghostface moment.
Uh-huh.
The whole thing with, yeah. So I probably Quinn.
Cool. Bob?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Sarah on this one. I'd have to say Quinn. It just, like she said, it just was.
You mean Ethan? Wasn't Ethan the one that got the TV on his head at the end?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I also brought up Quinn too at the end. I think Quinn is more my favorite.
Yeah, like, I think that was more my favorite death because that was the only one that technically got shot in the head.
That's a good point. That is a great
Now,
point.
I'm not saying that Detective Bailey is alive. I mean, there's no way you're surviving that. But to me, it felt like a good kind of callback to the original, just seeing that gunshot to the head.
Yeah. And Jen, what was your favorite kill?
I liked Ethan. I like Ethan's kill. I really did.
Yeah. Those are all great ones. Jason, I think I'm with you. Sam's attack on Bailey. But I know Jen hated it, but the knife in the eye, I like that a lot. I did, even though it's technically it would have been Tara's knife twist in the mouth, but we see Ethan come back. So if Ethan hadn't come back, it would have been Tara stabbing Ethan in the mouth.
Yeah.
Worst kill. Jen, what was the worst kill for you?
I guess the guy in the bathtub, since we didn't see it.
Perfect. Sarah, what about you?
I was literally going to say Greg in the fridge because we didn't see it.
You know what? But Greg, at least it looked cool, right? It looked cool, and it was a callback to Friday the 13th Part 2. So, okay, but you say Greg. Bob, what about you?
I have to go with Greg as well. I mean, it looks cool, but I would have loved to have seen it happening. So that
See him hacking
takes
up?
away. When you look good, I want to see it.
Right. Yeah, the only one, it's a technicality, and it's kind of in line with both Sarah and Bob, but I agree with Jen. It was Quinn's unnamed boyfriend. I don't know what his name was, but it was him. Like, that was just because we kind of it was funny when Mindy walks in and goes, "Oh, he's dead," and then like bails. But yeah, for me, that was probably the worst kill. Let's see. Did you guys stick around for the end credit scene?
Yep.
Yes.
And did you guys regret it?
No.
No? Jen?
No, not really.
Sarah?
I was so annoyed when that happened that I waited through that terrible Demi Lovato song and then all of the credits for like a 2-second little clip of Mindy. No thanks.
Well, part of it was I didn't like it either, but I had to go to the bathroom, one. But the second thing was it had been built up on, this is so good, like you got to stick around for the end credit scene, that I was anticipating something way different, and much to my fault, I trusted other people, and I was disappointed. Okay, so a couple more questions. We're gonna spin the wheel, then we're gonna get out of here. Where does Scream 6 land on your rankings list? Bob, go.
Number 3.
Number 3. What's in front of it?
5 and then 1.
5 and then 5 is your number 1?
No, number 2 and then
okay,
1.
So
would be
it goes
1.
6, 5, 1. Sarah, where does it land for you?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5. So it's in 5th place.
Jen, what about you?
I still have 3 and 6 tied at second.
Okay,
so it's 1, 3/6, 5, 2, 4.
Okay, so 4 is your last.
Yeah.
For me right now, it is 1, 2. This one's always hard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5. But this could easily switch to my least favorite. It could go literally in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on any given day, and 3 and 4 could swap because look, I know 3 has its faults. In Jen's eyes, it has no faults, but it has its faults. Okay, I feel like the stuff that 3, if we hold Scream 6 to the same standard that we hold Scream 3 to, I think the plot holes are far more egregious in this than they are in Scream 6. And this, they had no interference, right? They didn't have pushback from the Weinsteins.
As far as we know, the Paramount and Spyglass didn't.
Well, fair, but we haven't heard anything that would indicate that. They didn't have Columbine to have them have to rewrite the script from what they were originally going to do. We
just had Nev.
Yeah.
Right. But this movie, well, even still, her part wasn't going to be that integral to what they were going to do.
Wouldn't.
So this movie didn't have the obstacles in place that Scream 3 did. But Scream 3 is the punching bag for everybody. So to me, when you put those things on a scale, it's not even close as far as which one's got more issues. Radio Silence, their additions to this franchise for me lack the charm, creativity, and intelligence that we got from Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson. And it just makes, that's why I said I'm really nervous for what we're going to get in Scream 7. I think you may not agree with that statement in its entirety, but there's got to be some of that you guys see where you're like, there's something missing. And I'm not saying that I'm not trying to compare that they're apples and lug nuts, Radio Silence and Wes Craven. But for me, that's why I think I'm having such a hard time with these sequels. So it is what it is. Let's see what everybody's ranking is. Jason says 142,635. Dino is 123,645. Well, yeah, I mean, it's opinions are subjective in its entirety. That's why I'm saying this is why these aren't working for me. I'm not saying it's right. I don't believe that I'm right in anything that I say when it comes to these movies, but that is where I'm running into big problems with what Radio Silence is doing. Mayan says 162,453. David Hutchinson's here in the chat. Hey guys, hope you're all well. Stick around, David. I'll add you to the wheel. Polar says 143,265. Nick says 124,563. And Jason Dyer is 162,543. Okay, let me add David to the wheel. While I'm doing that,
can I say one last thing?
You can say anything you want, Jen.
My favorite line in the whole movie was Mindy's when she said, "I fucking missed the monologue again."
Oh, that was
love that line.
That was really funny. That's really funny. Okay. So anything else you guys want to talk about in regards to this movie before we jump into this wheel? I'm going to work on sharing the screen right now. And just so I can, while you guys are doing that, anybody want to add anything? If not, I can filibuster for a second.
Nick, you and I have to debate Scream 3. Your fans want it.
Okay. All right. They're gonna debate. We will try to make that happen.
I was in one of his live streams and everybody was saying, "You should really have Jen on to debate 3."
Oh Jesus. This thing is strobing out. That's weird.
Whoa. Seizure time.
I know. Let me remove that and let me try that again. I think it might be because I'm trying to share the audio with it, that it's doing that. So let's try that one more time. There we go. Well, that's weird. Try to share the audio and the thing wigs out. Okay. So before I spin, so last week we had a hell of a time with spinning the wheel. It was hilarious. The whole thing was hilarious. But what ended up happening was somebody won and said give it to Coop, if I remember correctly. But I could be wrong. But anyways, Coop ended up being the winner of Southpaw. So I messaged Coop on Twitter and I was like, hey, send me your address and I can send you this DVD. And Puller, don't leave just yet. I'm gonna spin this wheel in 10 seconds. So Coop ended up saying it's okay, save it for the next one. Or no, he said give it to Sharon. But then I talked to Sharon and Sharon said, nope, just put it back in. So Southpaw is already boxed. I'm gonna spin this wheel, and whoever wins is gonna get a steelbook of Southpaw. Jen, you want to count me down? You're always my good luck charm.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, spin.
Oh, Extron. Extron is the winner. Extron, let me know you're in the house, please. Let me know you are in the house. You got to claim your prize. Otherwise, we got to spin again. Is Extron in the chat?
To quote Jason, he's not in the chat. Spin again.
I know, right?
No, I see him at 11:41.
Yeah, he was in here.
Okay, I'm sure he's still here. Extron.
Yeah, there he is.
Is he there? Okay, Extron. Hit me up on Twitter, dude. You won a steelbook, a Blu-ray steelbook of Southpaw. It's a great movie if you haven't seen it, and if you have seen it, then you're probably pumped that it's yours. But it's a sealed Blu-ray disc, so hit me up with your address, and I will mail that off to you. Probably, I would say Monday, if I'm feeling better. Monday. So, okay. So we are at that time. It's that
Oh,
time,
no. He says give it to someone else.
Okay. All right, Jen, count it down.
Here we go again.
Hold on, let me share the screen. Okay, from here on out, if you win, we don't spin again. You just pick who wins.
Sounds good.
You pick whoever wins has to pick who gets it. Okay?
Oh God.
So, all right, Jen, count me down one more time.
3, 2, 1, spin.
No Bob, no Bob, no Bob.
Oh, Jason Dyer's gonna Jason's gonna lose his mind. He's gonna lose his mind. Mr. Bones, are you in the chat? Please be in the chat.
Oh yeah, he just said something. He's still here.
Bones, I have your address, so probably Monday I'll ship that out, dude. Bones wins a lot of stuff on this on my streams. The easy thing is I already know his address, so I don't have to work really hard to hunt him down. Okay, 16 people in the chat. I appreciate all of you guys being here. This has been a rough stream, but it's one for the record books. I feel like this is Jordan playing through the finals with the flu, or just hungover, if some people believe he just partied too hard the night before. Yes, so thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to my panel for putting up with my complaining on some of the things and some of the things that we agreed on. Everybody here was with me through the Stab-A-Thon, and this was, oh my God. Did they just say Bones wants to give it to Jason? Now give the Steely to Jason. Yes. Okay, Bones, you got it. I will give it to Jason. I will give it to Jason. So Jason, I have your information. I'll send that out to you on Monday. But yeah, no, everybody here on the panel and those that couldn't be here with us today has been fantastic. They've been walking along side by side with me through the Stab-A-Thon, helping me get through it. They've been nothing but amazing. Bob has got a channel. If you're not subscribed, please check out his channel. His link is in the description below. Jen and Sarah, we're still working on convincing them to possibly get a YouTube channel going. I have a feeling they would have no problem with getting subscribers almost immediately.
Yeah, that's not going to happen for me.
Okay, you change your mind, but that's fair. That's totally fair. I know we talked
Matt,
about that.
I do have one last thing I want to say.
Go ahead and say it.
Happy 10th stream together, buddy, in a row.
Yes, this was number 10. So Bob and I have a streak. For those of you that don't know, we have done every live stream on this channel. Bob has been by my side. Literally, I couldn't do it without him. Normally, Bob is more in the heel role when we do this for those wrestling fans out there. I think today I kind of I put that hat on. I think it was more like Hollywood Hulk Hogan in the NWO today.
And I was more like Macho Man when he was with NWO, and we collided a lot.
There you go, right? So so it was fun. Again, there's no bad Scream movie. This movie just didn't really work the way that I was hoping for. But that's okay. That's my opinion, and it's probably wrong. And I'm happy for everybody that that enjoyed it, and I'm happy that this movie is making a shit ton of money more than anything. Right? That's the best part about it, is that horror is right now. I feel like horror movies is where all the Marvel movies were when Avengers and everything was coming out. I feel like horror is right at the top of the tops, and that's all I could ask for. Good, bad, indifferent. I don't care about that as much as I care about having that and having this community, because it's what brings us all together, right? It gives us something to sit and chat for 3.5, nearly 4 hours and just bullshit and disagree, but we still love each other at the end of the day. And that's all I can ask for.
You know, something else is, I think you guys were right earlier when you said these sequels are aimed at the younger generation, because my friend who came to see it with me, who watched had never seen any of them. I watched them all with her. She said 6 was her favorite.
Right. And
she's 21.
Right. And I'm sure there's people from, the 70s and 80s that had all that stuff, that saw the stuff that we love from the 90s and the, 2000s and whatever. And like, that is crap, so it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. So
all I'm going to say is this, because by next year I'll be 28. If 7 impresses me enough, I'm sorry, 1 takes a back seat and is being pushed to 4.
Say that one more time, Bob.
If Scream 7 blows it out of the water, Scream 1 has now fallen into 4th place for me.
Okay, that's a hot take. So, I mean, there's going to be lots of speculation as more information comes out about what to expect, where this movie's going to be shooting, who's coming back, who maybe not so much. So yeah, it's nothing but good. It doesn't matter how I feel about this movie. The important thing is that we're getting these movies. I've said that about my favorite franchise, Halloween. You know what? Even the stinkers, I'm glad that we get them. I really am, because it means that we have something to talk about. I have something to entertain me. I have something to look forward to in another calendar year. Maybe if we're lucky, we get another Scream movie in a year, maybe 2 years. But you know what? I'm going to have something to look forward to. And that's all I can ask for as a horror fan, from a horror fan standpoint.
Well, I'm a child of the 70s, and Scream is still my favorite franchise.
Yeah. Yep. It's a fantastic franchise. And the fact that we're going to be getting more and more eventually, that's nothing but good. That's nothing but good. So everybody else is kind of saying bye. And I appreciate everybody that stuck around to hear me rant a little bit in my final moments before I collapse, because as soon as I end this stream, I'm going to pass out.
You need to rest.
Yeah, I'm going to. So we're gonna say goodbye to everybody. Well, we won't say goodbye. What we will say is we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for everybody being here, man. I'm so grateful, and thank you again to my panel. You guys are awesome. Please sub to everybody's channel or their social medias. All the links are in the description. We'll see you guys later.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.